We did have a smoke. This was not common to the Maple Street, one of the businesses on Maple Street. So FD took over. We did see some smoke inside of there. I don't think it was a big fire, but
Which street was that?
Maple.
We don't have a
It's
Maple.
probably Maple Street Bakery. I think
Yeah.
that's up
Oh,
there.
that's
That's where I was thinking.
Could have been, yeah. It was new to me. I've never seen that before. So sometimes we get some false fires and things like that, or what we call controlled burns. That's common to us. But it resulted in FD taking over. And the Malia Hotel had a little fire also. We had other incidents going on, but like I said, most of them are private in nature. They're isolated to medical calls in the home, people who just need help overall, or filing reports of fraud and things like that. They don't really affect the overall community. So I just highlighted the incidents that do affect the overall community. So far, right? Knock on wood. So life's good. Any questions for me? Go for it, sir.
Yeah. There seemed to be an increase in vandalism, cars being stolen and celebration.
Stolen cars
Yes.
or cars being broken into.
Broken into and also the ones being stolen.
Okay. I would say, are you familiar with our community services department, Greg? I gave you a link to that, right?
Yeah.
So, if there's any trends going on, it's a good idea for that trend to be identified. I don't see it, over the last month. You might be talking historically. Remember,
You know, it's about 6 months.
So,
Yeah.
Sergeant Rios, one of the things, so we, as a board, we were working with Captain Calvis. I know he was still trying to iron out kind of how to do it on a repeat basis
right.
of getting a blotter and getting it in time. Our agenda has to post 7 days before the meeting.
Yes.
Remember, right? So
Okay.
try to get about 10 days before our meetings on a monthly basis. I know his business, so maybe if you and I can talk afterwards, just try to figure out if something that community services can do.
Yeah, so
and
this-
just understanding the filtering. That way we can get in the agenda, and that way it's just part of since it's a public agenda, everybody can read
Right.
what's in there.
So there's some things that as a community you guys can do overall. I know you guys have some type of Facebook page or message board and things like that. So it's all good. I've seen communities partner with Ring where they send out messages through the Ring app saying, hey, it's 10 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock, don't forget to lock your car. A lot of the times the cars that get broken into is kids doing what we call car hopping. So they go in the neighborhood, they come here, they steal your annoying, but they steal your iPhone cable, like you take the change, now I gotta buy another cable, so they take the cable and they take the plugs and things like that. So sending out messages, coming together, this is amazing, where we just kind of police each other and say, hey, don't forget to lock your car, so don't forget to lock the door. And that helps minimize, it doesn't stop it, but it'll help minimize it. And there is a community services department that can help maybe foster a relationship between the agency and you guys to say what kind of implementations can we put in the communities to minimize that type of stuff. So, go ahead, sir.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Greg and I both live in Artisan Park.
Mhm.
And at Halloween, if we have a heart attack, we're dead. Is there any sense of what they can do about the traffic problems?
Yeah, you and a lot of it's danger, traffic concerns, the amount of activity going on, especially in Celebration. People come from other parts of the county just to have Halloween.
We just close the road.
It's not.
We
I would say you need some type of traffic op plan, partnering with the sheriff's office.
So we've already got, there's 20, about on average each year, about 20 on-duty deputies, and then we'll pay for an additional 4.
Right.
We've also worked with the fire department for between Halloween and a couple other high peak times,
Right.
where they've actually put either an ambulance or a small fire engine in the back of Artisan. So yes, we do coordinate with them to do that.
The problem is though, for Halloween is that this year, especially, and it's every year, every year everybody says, the board say, we're making improvements, we're gonna add people, and then the same problem has. The people come in town, the roads are blocked, takes an hour to get from downtown to Artisan Park for residents.
Yeah.
And-
So the county is ultimately responsible for traffic. That doesn't come to the board because we don't own the roadways. And we don't as a board have the ability to restrict any of that. That's gonna come up to the sheriff's office. We will work with the sheriff's office, and that's where we end up bringing in extra details that we pay for, but they also bring them in as well.
Greg's question was.
Well,
sorry,
we did
Yeah.
back and forth with the
Yeah,
sheriff.
guys, can we hold on for a second? Because I want to make sure the sergeant can get back out. We need to get to the meeting. So if Sergeant Rios, if you want to leave maybe your contact info, that if anybody wants to reach out to you afterwards, just.
Well, I would say I am just but one of the many sergeants in this area. I'm not your permanent solution, respectfully. You need a permanent solution. You need a greater relationship. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I work the streets.
Yeah.
right?
So we've had it with captain, at the captain level, but you and I, the sergeant and I talked earlier on about trying to get a patrol deputy that would be assigned to the area, so you and I can work on that afterwards and try to
Yeah,
get. to the
so,
veteran.
so you need what's called an ops plan, and when they have these big events, the sheriff's office creates ops plans on how to combat certain things that can arise in these situations. It don't matter what it is, Christmas, Halloween, it doesn't matter.
And in Halloween, they do that.
Yeah, and an ops plan exists, and they create entry and exits for emergency services and things. Entry and exits for you guys, you know, kind of hard to do, I will say that. But that's pretty much it. That's how that works as a bigger picture. That's how that works. And I already spoke to Greg. Hopefully he could create a link with community services, and they
Yep.
pretty much are the team. That's their community services. Right? So it's what they do.
All right. Sorry, board, did we have any other questions?
Man.
You're all done? We didn't even-
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Sorry.
Yep, no worries.
Thank you.
Yep, take care, you guys.
It's a Derek.
Derek's in Cross Creek.
Yeah, you got it. Take care.
Here he is.
I'm gonna try to squeeze through here. Get all my things in here. Doctor.
Go ahead.
Evening, board. I just wanted to stop by. I know we just started the pond maintenance in here this month. I want to stop by and kind of give you guys an update how everything was going. It's been busy. Unfortunately, the previous vendor, when you gave me the notice, just kind of stopped. So we've been playing some serious catch up with
As expected.
with multiple guys. So instead of 6 treatments, you're gonna probably be closer to 12 to 15 treatments this month, man-wise, just to be on site. So we're playing catch up. The ponds are looking a lot better. This is a tough time of year anyway, because the water levels, we haven't been getting a lot of rain. Water levels are lower, they're hot. So now that we're starting to get some rain, it'll start flushing the systems a little bit better. It'll really start helping the ponds. Submerged algae is taking a hit right now, and the submerged vegetation, the algae is being treated as well. So everything is starting to kind of come around, from what I looked at the first week of the month compared to today. It's looking a lot better, from everything that I've seen. Your aeration systems will get addressed in July. That's a quarterly thing, so they'll start in July. We'll go through. My techs did pick up on some noises in a few cabinets, so probably for that next meeting, you might have thing for a couple rebuilds on a couple compressors and some little things like that. So
Are all the aerators operating at this point?
there are a couple that are not operational. However, the techs, when they've been on site, have reset them. They seem to run for a little bit while, and they seem to trip off. So so that my aeration tech will be able to go through everything and
Well,
make
if you
sure.
could, if we identify, because if they're still in the warranty.
Yeah, we'd like to find out which ones those are.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll break them all down, there'll be a report, and it'll say which ones are completely non-operational, which ones are having some mechanical issues and things like that. So-
and just on that, just time urgency, because I think we're right at your, that we installed. quite a
Just
few.
about, maybe a little over. So yeah, if you
Yeah.
can give me that
you
information
can get
sooner
that.
than later, that would be great.
Yeah, he'll probably be here the first week and a half or so of July, so as soon as he does that, and puts his report together, we'll send it over to Angel, so.
Angel, do we have, from the last company going out, I know we had to deal with landscaping and withheld payments, they weren't going the last month or two of their contract?
Yeah, we have, I have their final bill that I haven't released yet.
Okay, we can, whatever you need to do to hold on to that to make sure, if they just didn't do it and abandoned it, then,
Well, that's,
yeah.
Yeah,
We're
I
gonna
don't- I mean, I
get
can't say for
together.
sure, but
yeah.
it,
We're gonna get together and
doesn't
see
look, yeah.
exactly what it was, because they have pictures when they started, so I can kind of see in what percentage we need to
Whatever
hold.
appropriate, I just want to make sure,
Okay,
we're not just passing it the last check.
right.
Okay. Any other questions for fund maintenance? All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All righty, public comments. Jan, did you
Before
want-
before we get into public comments, Jan's gonna make a statement and I'll see if I need to tag on anything.
Yeah, I understand a lot of people are here because of the item that talks about intent to issue bonds.
Sorry, just, Jan, can you introduce
Yeah,
yourself?
oh, sorry, I'm Jan Carpenter, counsel for the CDD, so we assist in the regular meetings as well as any financing, bond issues, loans, all the general counsel obligations for the district. We have an item on here that is intent to issue bonds, and that obviously had people concerned because it sounds like intent, it's actually a tax term, and that's what the document is called. Because there was a possibility at some point the district could issue bonds, and that has been talked about at meetings for several months. The very first step is what we call a reimbursement resolution. And what that is just a resolution that starts under the tax code, the clock running. So if there are any costs related to a community center, for example, a consultant or an engineering cost or an appraisal cost, if bonds are issued down the line, those costs are reimbursed. So this is just the first step. It's called intent to issue. However, it really is a reimbursement resolution. It just is out there to say, yes, at some point there may be an intent, there may be bonds issued, and if there are, these costs could be wrapped into that bond issue. It is not the district signaling that there are going to be bonds issued. It is not a first step in issuing bonds. It's merely to be able to capture costs that are spent now in investigating whether a bond issue is the right way to go and what infrastructure would be needed by the district.
Jan, can you also explain
think
how we came to the number as well?
The
40 million.
the number is the total amount that could possibly be reimbursed. It is a maximum ceiling. So when we looked at total costs, it's probably way, way high. However, we can't go over that number. So we picked a total number that would not be unreasonable if a huge facility was built, even though that's something, that number would probably be the highest amount of bonds to be issued. However, that was just put in there as a high target number. The board could lower it, but it's a maximum of what could be reimbursed. It is not anything that the district is tied to. It is merely an amount for the reimbursement. And then the board, when they.
No.
This is for Jan, you guys can have, we'll have public comments in just a little bit, but it's not a Q&A with.
Yeah, so this is that the board will consider this. If the board wants to lower the amount, they can. That's a number we put in because we knew that that would be an excessive amount that we would never go over in any costs up to a bond issue. And what this does is it says those costs could be reimbursed out of bond proceeds should bonds be issued in the future. So you could tie all the costs that were tied up in the bond issue. And then along with that were engagement letters from a bond underwriter. The bond underwriter, we ask questions all the time saying if we thought about doing this or if another CDD is doing this, and we ask questions. And the bond underwriter, it has a lot of regulations. They have securities regulations, MSRB, and they need to be engaged. They have to give what's called MSRB G17, which is a fair and reasonableness. They have to tell us that they are not a financial advisor, they're not a municipal advisor, but they are the underwriter for the bonds. And so that sets in motion that they can give us advice about the bonds. And so we want to have them engaged. So we are calling them and they've met all their requirements under the various codes that they have to comply with. And the same with Ackerman as bond counsel. Scott Lofton has been bond counsel to the district for many, many years, as long as I can remember. They've given fees which are reasonable in the world of fees, and they have been giving us the advice. And we had questions with one of the board members. We had a call with them. And we've asked them questions along the way, and they put together the intent resolution. And again, they have helped when we have tax questions because municipal bonds are regulated under the tax code for tax exempt bonds. So we want to have someone engaged so we can ask those questions, and they are serving the district in the event that bonds are not issued, then the bond fee is not payable for either of those. The bond counsel has an upfront fee to pay for the intent resolutions and calls and questions up to that time. But the majority of fees are not paid if the bonds are never issued.
Don't want to put you on the spot, but I think at a previous meeting, you mentioned that when the CDD was established, there was an initial report that set a maximum amount of bonds.
It's a validation proceeding. It's a court judgment that sets the maximum amount of bonds that can be issued without going back to court. That's where the courts validate that the bonds are being issued properly under state law.
Do we know what that number is?
Yes, we had it. It's 200. No, it's
Yeah.
like 550 million.
Yeah,
We've only issued 155 million.
yeah, well, there's
To
plenty of
absorb it.
room under the
Yeah.
original judgment for additional infrastructure and state law infrastructure.
So we've got plenty of room between the original allotment of 500 or whatever and the 150 that has already been spent today. This is just increasing that number, but not going over the cap.
Right.
It's actually, yeah, it's not increasing.
You can't reuse a bond.
Correct.
Before we go on, little housekeeping. For us, we have a beautiful view of the ceiling for everyone online. Adjust the camera a little bit, little lower.
What's the ceiling look like?
It's pretty, it's pretty,
pretty.
it's a nice view outside.
While he's doing it, the board have any other questions or Angel?
No, I just wanted to say too, I've gotten some phone calls on the district has decided to issue $40 million bonds, $10 million bonds. There's been no decision made by this board to issue any bonds. That has never been, we're not there yet. It just has not been stated that the board is issuing any number with a bond. If they are in discussion regarding a community center, but nothing has been determined as far as a number that the board has settled on to issue a bond for.
Okay. So with that, we'll do, the public comment period. So do we have a sign-in sheet ahead of time?
No.
So what I'd ask is, we'll call you up one at a time. Because there are so many people, I am gonna ask, Angel's gonna, do 3 minutes. And, yeah,
It's okay, because we can't see the video on the side, but we can wrestle.
and I'm gonna ask you to hold you at 3 minutes, so if you can please respect everybody else's time, since there's a lot of people that want to speak. We're gonna go ahead and give everybody an opportunity to speak. I know some meetings, it's been suggested, hey, if there are 20 people that want to say the same thing, then the 19 of you will defer and let the one person speak and everybody raise their hand 20. If you choose to do that, that's great, just in the interest of moving time. If you want to speak, I think it's important to give everybody the opportunity to do that, so we'll go ahead and open that up. And again, we made a point of, because I think that's probably why most of the people are there, that's why I'd ask staff just to give a little bit of a preamble as to here, there's been a lot of information and some misinformation going around, so just wanted to kind of set a baseline, so as you're asking your questions that you can do that. This won't be a time for Q&A back and forth with staff. If you guys want to present questions, that will that maybe staff can address later when the agenda item comes up. We'll certainly take some notes, and if there's some consistent themes, that can be a board discussion at that point, that we can bring some of those up.
Oh, we also have the second, public comment period at the end.
Yeah, we do have it. Yes, we also have a public comment period at the end of the meeting as well. If anybody wants to wait for that time to do their public comments then. So, with that, let me maybe just start in the front row, maybe work our way back, just so it's easiest that way. If anybody in the front row want to make a public comment, sure, go ahead, man. If you could just, at the mic, just state your name and address, and Angel will keep time for us.
Hi, my name is Debbie DeLosa. I'm at 415 Harbor Court in Celebration. I'm here. I'm concerned with the lack of communication about this community center. And it's interesting that there's no bonds, but there's discussions being held. And I know you're going to say you've had meetings before, and it's in the meeting minutes somewhere buried somewhere on some website. But you know there's an active ongoing discussion about a community center from CROA, and we have a committee, and we have all this stuff, and I know there's been a lot of CROA, CCDD joint meetings. It just feels very odd that CCDD is doing its own thing, CROA is doing its own thing, we have this committee. So I guess my concern is you need community input, you need a community vote for a referendum of this size. And in my opinion, and maybe you don't from state law, but we definitely need to get community input. I have a lot of concerns about the community center, but I don't know anything about what you're even discussing. So improved communications would be a step.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So from the second row, the gentleman from the right.
Hi, my name is, Hi, my name is Rich Stoss, and I own 620 Teal Avenue. I also own 1011 Falling Reef Street here in Celebration. And I have several questions. My first question directed to you, Jan. Who gives the reimbursement on the bonds?
So we're, like I said at the beginning, we're not going to do this as a Q&A session. If you want to present your questions, we can write some notes. Or if you want to email staff afterwards, they can email you back on it. But
I'd like an answer as to who gets the how do we get the reimbursement for getting the funds? And my email is RJTOCE.
No, you can email your question to staff and we'll respond.
Yeah.
Well, how are you gonna respond if you don't know what it is?
Well, you need to send us your email question and we'll respond to you.
Angel, what's the email address?
Who do we send email to?
Yeah.
Who do you,
Admin?
you can do admin at Celebration, yeah.
So do it to admin@celebrationcdd. Is it .org?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Minute celebrations.
I got 3
Admin
minutes, so
celebration.
Steve, I got my first thought.
Everybody can keep it down, please. So the admin at celebrationcdd.org.
Correct.
It's on the-
There's 2 engagement letters for the underwriters and the bond council. Was there ever an RFP or an RFQ for either one of those to engage these companies? That's the question I'd like answered. And then also on the community center, and I think Debbie said pretty much everything that's said, so.
Thank you.
We need roads, we need sidewalks, trees were planted in a tree belt that should have never been, because it's heaving most of the sidewalks. So we're broken sidewalks and on streets, we don't even have a town hall. You people are talking about $40 million community center, that's ridiculous. Not bad.
We're not talking about a community center.
We are talking about it, Jack, the numbers stuff.
Public comment.
I'm not gonna argue with you, Jack, you and I are friends.
Okay, guys, all right.
It's not a back and forth,
Yeah,
or this is public
And-
comments.
I
Need to
also,
keep decorum.
listen. We're all residents here.
Right.
We're all neighbors here. Let's respect each other. Let's not, we do want to hear what everyone has to hear. Try to take the emotion out. I'm taking notes. I want to make sure we go ahead and hear everybody. But let's be civil, otherwise we're gonna be here a very long time, accomplish very, very little. Okay, so.
Thank you. Second row, is there anybody else in the second row for public comments? Third row, just start on the right, ma'am. Going over, any public comments? No, okay, fourth row, sorry. Sir, come on out to the mic, please.
Might consider for the order.
We'll consider you guys all back to fifth row.
Back house.
Yeah,
Don't start your own row, because then it's, you know.
you'll be the bleachers.
Hello, my name is John Kraft, K-R-A-F-T. I live at 1100 Roseland Park Drive. I have a number of thoughts on this. First of all, since we know absolutely nothing about this place, we've never seen plans. We've never seen the cost of the bonds. We've never seen where you're putting it. We've never figured out where the heck you're gonna park the cars that use it. We've never figured any time for construction. And we have no idea about the fixed cost of the building. And until we get those things, or until somebody comes up with something more than just a resolution that we're gonna borrow $40 million in bonds, I'd like to see some of those things. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the fourth row? Sitting down, the last row sitting down?
Yeah.
No. Careful.
Sorry, I'm his wife. So I wasn't saying.
It is smart life, okay.
Well, okay, I have so many concerns about this. I made a whole list of them, and I'll try to go through them quickly. First of all, the subject of the community center. I think it's a very nice idea, and I've heard this floated around, but do we really need this? What is it going to provide for us at a very high cost that we don't have now? Because we do have another big project coming up, and that is a solution to the problem of town hall, which is also going to be very costly. So that's my first question. The other thing is, I'm not clear why CCDD is handling this, because it's my understanding that the function of this of CCDD is really supervising the maintenance projects in Celebration, and the PROA more or less handles things like new facilities and programs that they need and so on and so forth. So I'm not, maybe you're talking to each other, but it seems to me that there's an infringement on responsibility on this subject. And if it is Crow that is going to do it, it is really truly responsible for it. They have that monumental problem in town hall now. So I don't know why we're even talking about the community center. Then if you are going to do both of these projects, you're talking about town hall in this community center and a lot of money, a lot of taxes for all the residents in this town. And that concerns me because we are in a period of high inflation, high interest rates, all of which are going to affect this community project and town hall. I mean, beyond my comprehension, because I don't see anything to be done. Then you're right, there was some mention about possibility of where you're going to put this. And somebody said, now this may be rumor, that the baseball field by the school is a consideration. Frankly, I think that would be just a terrible idea, because that field is used by kids in this town, and I think they should have it. And they also use the area in front of it. So I don't know where you're going to put this community center that's going to be a logical place for a community center. Is my time up?
Oh, you have 25 seconds.
Okay, then my last concern is with communication, which this, I think most of the people in this room are just blown away that all of this came up. And frankly, it is so alarming to me that 5 people on this board are deciding on planning, funding, building a center for which all the residents in this town are going to be responsible. I think the residents should have some kind of vote in this. Okay.
Thank you, Nat.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the fourth row, back row? Okay, fifth row, sure. Yep, start with the right and we'll go across.
Great, you got a whole hallway too, so.
Yeah, no, well, that'll be row 6.
The closet is last.
Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Paul Badalini, and I put a face to what you've been reading. It seems like every time I come, I break records for attendance, but I'll try to be very quick. Greg, what I have here are some questions that it's impossible for you to answer right now. So what I'd like to do is I'm gonna leave this with you. As for the attorney, what you said is correct. It just wasn't complete. Bottom line is that we are going to be responsible for what they put on your. Yes, you haven't voted on it, but it's on the agenda. Secondly is, has there been any deal made with the schools that we don't know about?
Nope.
Why? No? Okay, well, why are some of these elderly people out here, me included, who live on a fixed income, have to worry about an increase in taxes like this for a building we don't need, where we do need, and I'd be willing to write a check right now to get the town hall fixed and complete. Part of the problem is, if we use this money, it opens up to the public, it's on this side. Bottom line.
You know, I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't know.
I'm sorry?
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, under sunshine law, if we use public money, it's gonna be, we have to open it up. Yeah, you look surprised, but read it. It's
I'm
bottom
trying
line.
to understand, I'm not looking surprised.
Yeah,
Okay, again, be civil.
The other thing is, our people here have not had the courtesy of being brought into this. And that really worries me a little bit. In fact, it worries me a lot. Because I care about all these people. I care about staying here. But we're forcing ourselves right now. I think on your agenda somewhere is a 17.5% increase coming up. Yeah. We're nickel and dime to death. Right now, every one of us is paying more than $1,000 a month than we did last year. We don't need another 800 to 1,000 added to that. I'm not going to get into this. I'm going to leave this with them. Believe me when I say what the information the attorney gave you is correct, but incomplete. They have not done what they're supposed to have done. They have not done the proper checks. And that comes from someone who works directly with the World Bank. Thank you.
Can you just state your name and address?
Yeah, Ray Prixiano, 1350 Celebration Avenue. I have a question about the excuse me, about NBS.
What is the?
NBS is, the.
MBS Capital.
So has there been a beauty contest to decide which, underwriters we're gonna be looking at? I mean, normally in this kind of a situation, you would talk to 3 or 4 different underwriters, but, you know, investment banks to come back to you with a proposal. So all I know is that we have one so far that's been identified. And I think we need to go broader. And that's really my main point. And also, I'm not sure that there was a background check on NBS.
Okay, thank you.
Robert Staten, 516 Long Meadow Street. Obviously, we've all reviewed the agenda tonight, and it seems that you guys have made the decision to pass a resolution that you're going to be able to spend the $40 million in whatever way you want without coming back to the community, because that's the way the agenda resolution speaks. I understood it from Florida law, but obviously you've got your attorney here, I'm sure she can confirm this, that it states that there should be the opportunity for questions and answers. Obviously, you're not giving answers tonight. You're just listening. We're all going to email in. If we get a response, if it's anything like the phone system, we're not going to get a response. There's a number of financial problems that's been highlighted, as one of my colleagues has said, and friends. One of our neighbours consults for the World Bank in issuing bonds. You met her last night, Greg. She's done a background check on the employee that's advising you. His resume online is incorrect. We're going to be writing to you about that. We feel really strongly that the process that you've gone through to get to the position that we're at tonight, not talking to other investment banks. We don't know whether you have talked to other investment banks or not, because you're not taking questions. But with not talking to other investment banks, usually the way this goes when issuing a bond is that the investment bank give you a proposal. They sit there and they say, this is the upside, this is the downside, this is the medium of what this is going to look like. Are the projections and the taxes, are they evaluated on current population? Are they projected on future population? Do the business buildings, do they have to pay? The commercial businesses, will they be on the property tax for this? All of these questions, I think we're all entitled to the answers to before you vote through a resolution to give yourselves the power to spend the money on whatever you want without coming back to us. And to be honest with you, I think that we're entitled to answers about MBS Capital, and you guys need answers on MBS Capital and on other options, because if you don't, you're opening yourselves up to financial malfeasance. And we're all sitting here, we haven't all taken the time out that we won't collectively get together. If we don't feel the process is followed correctly, then you've got a lot of unhappy people, because $40 million is a lot of money.
Thank you.
Hold on. To reiterate, Jan, are we voting tonight to spend $40 million?
No, we are not. There is a long process to issue bonds and.
So what does the resolution, what does the resolution say?
Yeah. Who's up next?
It's
No.
Well, you've got enough. You've been done now. Wait.
Hold on, guys.
Don't hide behind Robert Rules of Order. If you break it, go ahead, open up.
Smith, you
What?
asked the question. Let's
I
get
have
the
her
answer.
question.
Gentlemen,
Guys,
gentlemen,
this is
hold on.
enough.
Jane, can you explain again, please, what the intent of the resolution is?
This is a preliminary resolution that if money is spent now to pursue and to look into all the questions that have been raised, potentially location, construction, plans, where, what type of facility is needed, all the questions that are being asked. If money is spent, that money could be reimbursed by the bonds when they are issued, as
If-
opposed to
or if
coming
they
out
are.
of
And what is the number? But
So-
hold on a minute, the board doesn't have to come back to us
the board.
after that resolution.
And I'll answer that because the question keeps coming up. What this board will do is there would be an engineering report of what is going to be built. It's called the project. Whatever is decided, whether it's a community center, whether it's something else, after many months of investigation.
Wait, so we can hear her. I mean, let us finish.
And then once the board decides, and again, comes up at the meetings, this is nothing in secret, the meetings are open, they're all open in the sunshine, documents are all open in the sunshine, public records. Then the board would decide that with advice of the various professionals, would decide on an appropriate bond amount, and then there are public hearings before anyone is charged assessments for any new improvements.
So,
So
yeah.
there's plenty of opportunity for public input.
Can I maybe, just
Yes.
for those folks that are tracking what we're doing, for
Sure.
example, with Dick's Height, and correct me if I'm
Yes.
wrong. So Dick's Height is an example, some of you may be familiar, we hired a consulting firm about 3 months ago who is working with CROA, because I know that question has come up. They are working hand in hand with CROA's Master Plan Advisory Group to get the data from Master Plan Group, and then they are going to do, as a professional consulting firm, take that and do what a community development plan would be. That contract is open, we discussed that several months ago, anybody that wants a copy of that and their proposal is more than welcome to get that. Those are the types of costs, the upfront. So when you're asking a question of, hey, what might a community center or what might other amenities look like? What's the plan? These are the folks on the front end that are helping us to answer those questions of those different elements. All this resolution, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is doing is saying on the front end, because the actual construction decision would come some point down the road. This allows us to retroactively capture those costs on the front end and roll those into the bond if a bond is eventually issued. That's why it's being done now, as opposed to before we go to construction. Jan, like,
Correct.
And in theory, I understand that, but in the words in the document, it says quite clearly, we can all read it, that you don't need to come back to the residents.
No,
You
you
can make the decisions on how you spend the money and how much money it is. That's what it says in the resolution.
and nobody's arguing that. That is correct.
That
That's
is correct.
Thank you. So everybody's aware, after they vote this through tonight, that's it.
Can we have,
That's not correct.
That's it. They
That's,
make-
that's
not it.
it's not accurate.
No, but you make the decision.
That's not,
we do make the
Yeah.
decision,
Thank you.
but
They
nobody
make
is,
the decision.
but nobody is making a decision to issue a
No,
bond tonight.
Not tonight, no, not tonight, but you make the decision on what money and how that money.
Correct.
is spent. Yeah,
Correct.
thank you, so
Yeah.
you're all clear.
And,
Yeah.
and let me add on the sentence to do that.
Okay.
Guys,
can you
hold on.
please be quiet out there?
We do that with community input, as we're sitting here getting community input tonight, and we have been over the past year. Those decisions are made with community input.
And I
in these
really
meetings.
appreciate that, Craig,
Okay.
but the issue here is that most of us in this room haven't had any dialogue from CDD.
Okay, and that's why we're here
And
tonight,
that's
so if I can ask.
What you will.
Right.
And I will just state right now that there is part of the scope of master planning, which involves a very thorough, months-long community engagement.
But that's.
So everybody, hold on a
Doing it
second.
backwards.
That's exactly the step that we do. I am a community developer by trade. This is how we do things. We go and we get all the information. We compare ourselves to other communities, and then we go to the residents. We do focus groups, surveys, and pop-ups where we get input from every community member. So each one of you in this room and online will have multiple opportunities to weigh in on what and what we do not do in this community.
Isn't that what Crow is doing?
That's why we're doing it hand in hand with CROA and their master plan.
Within the document, you
Yeah.
wanna.
Can we?
Okay, we're not arguing
That's
that.
enough.
Smithy,
Yeah.
Smithy, can we go ahead?
Sure, what's with this?
Oh, sure. So Smithy Sipes, I have multiple homes here, but if you want to come visit me, I'm on 505 Campus Street. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody that came tonight. Wow, this is the best of times. We're getting such community response these days. We've got a Crow board that's working together. We've got Impact that's going on, asking us questions about what we like. We've got everybody here. By the way, that impact survey was for Crow amenities, not CBD amenities. So you could do a CBD survey to see what the community wants from CBD, because it's probably not a community center. Outside of the best of times with this going on, we're also in the worst of times. We've got inflation that's out of control. Groceries are through the roof. Everybody in here, their insurance bills on auto, home, everything's gone way up. This year, if you own a condo, your fees are gonna double. And now we've got you guys wanting to add this big bond, which we don't even know what it costs. On top of that, you don't cut the trees anymore, so now we have that burden on top of us. But it's the best of times for you guys, because nobody's running against you. So we don't have anybody to vote against. So, you know, the way I look at it, we're all financially burdened a little bit here, and this is the wrong time. So I know you said that the bonds aren't gonna happen yet, this is not when the vote is, but you know what? You don't ask a girl to the ball without expecting to dance. Yeah, that's just how it is. And the way we all look at CDD right now is, you're a financial burden to Celebration. The Dig Site survey that you're doing this one, it's 126,000, somewhere in there, I don't know the exact number, but it's over that. And now, the past 3 years, you've passed double-digit tax increases on us, including this year, you wanted to do a 17.6% tax increase. If you hadn't done that survey, which none of us asked for, would we even need a tax increase? Or would that 126,000 or whatever it is cover that?
Can you explain that part? Because I don't understand. I'm not following that at all.
I don't follow.
Oh, let me make it easy. Did anybody in this room ask for a survey to be done for a community center from CDD?
No.
We didn't do.
You guys spent
$126,000.
It's not a survey, and there was a reason.
We never did a survey.
What's the Dig Sykes money going to? I've got a whole sheet says what you spent.
The initial analysis they're doing is exactly what we talked about last night. It's a comparative analysis with other communities. Past that, yes, it will get to a survey phase.
Did we ask for that?
No.
But you're increasing our taxes this year 17.6%.
But that's not going into that's the purpose of the bond issue tonight, is to capture that and be able to roll that into the bond as opposed to doing it in the base fund.
My point is spending money frivolously without asking for
Okay.
and increasing our taxes every year and taking away services.
But that's already explained.
Yeah, that's what-
How long have you lived here?
Long enough to know that this board is out.
Okay, yeah, let's get the other public.
Yeah, all these maybe 20-some years.
Okay, is there another?
Yeah, is there?
In conclusion, don't be a financial burden on the community. We like you guys. Do other things. We don't want the community to set up for you guys.
Okay.
Hello, so my name is Nina Schwitters, I live at 1589 Castile Street. So there's just one phrase that keeps coming to my mind. And it's in the absence of the information, people assume the worst. And that is where we are. We have no information, we have Facebook, which is always out of control, telling us we're gonna have soup kitchens. There's no transparency, you're upsetting the community. And gosh knows what you have planned. So it would really be in all of our best interests for you to be forthcoming, transparent, answer the question. I'm going to submit my questions. But what is the timeline for answers?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want a timeline.
As soon as we can get answers back, we will. If you ask.
Which means 1 month, 3 months, so 3 months.
If you ask.
A lot of this is on the agenda that we'll be answering later. A lot of this is on the agenda.
Be on the agenda.
It's today.
I can't tell you if you ask 100 questions, it's gonna take us a while to answer them. If you ask a reasonable, we'll get it back as soon as we can.
This is the second time I've been in a meeting with you all. And the first time, it was very upsetting too. We had people crying when we wanted to increase our rates from the famous letter from Montega for 39%. So why do we have to get to this point? Why can't you just share this information? Ask for the feedback. All of us have come here because we're upset, because we don't know what you're doing. So it would really, absence of information, it's just gonna go wild here. So that's all I have to say. I'll send my questions.
Going to the left. Sir.
I am Scott Slavic. I'm from 529 Greenbrier Avenue. Greg, thank you for your time the other night. Really appreciate it. You know, it seems to me that this is based on an aspirational survey that was done in 2019, if I heard correctly. And they asked Celebration residents, what were the top 10 things they might like to have? And the explanation for CCDD getting involved in this was that CROA had handled kind of the first 6. So now we're in this phase of very, very large, expensive projects. And this is why CCDD has gotten involved in this, because they have the ability to issue municipal debt on behalf of. Now, this was done in 2019, prior to COVID, prior to the tremendous, inflationary increases that everyone has gone through, whether it's their homeowner's insurance, automobile insurance, food, or property taxes. Including CCDD, who has raised our rates dramatically and offers less and less service. Again, people are asking this board tonight when you will respond. I've been here since 1999. In every instance I've ever touched CCDD, I never get a return phone call. I finally dig down through the layers, I come up, and maybe one of the ladies here in the office finally can help me get to the right person. And it works, but it's a lot of work. So this is why I have some concerns about this particular CCDD taking on this particular project. Now, this gentleman tells me that he is a community developer. So I understand that. So he has a certain basis of knowledge and wants to compare us to other communities. Quite frankly, there is no other community in the state of Florida or the United States of America that has World Drive, who dead ends, into her Welcome to Celebration sign. We are a unique animal. We don't need to be like every other community. And I understand people like to build and do things and in their minds make better. There seems to be there's an awful lot of disagreement within our community as to whether we even need a community center with all the facilities we currently have that we're struggling to maintain and not always doing a good job of maintaining. So I wonder if the survey was sent out today that said we are considering building a community center. And by the way, for every $100,000 worth of assessed value on your home, this is where your property taxes will go. Now, the community is going to vote it up or down. If majority rules, and I'm going to adhere to whatever the community says. But the other figure I would like to say, you got involved in this because you feel you can issue municipal debt. By you building this community center, we have to open it up to Osceola County. And of course, you think nobody from Osceola County is going to come here, but we all live here on Halloween. And we know the county will come here. So my thought process is too, I should have a side-by-side comparison. CROA has the ability to assess us like any other HOA. Would it be in my best interest to be it's gonna cost me 10 grand. I'd rather put 10 grand into an assessment and have a facility that we own and control for the residents of Southern.
Given my time to stop.
Yeah. Sure, come on. Oh, okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Ed Braun, and I live at 2269 Celebration Boulevard. And I'm kind of new to Celebration, so I'm just wondering maybe if the town seems to be expanding a little bit too fast. I mentioned that because I'm in the new part, Island Village, and when I bought the house there, noticed that all of our neighbors, the water wasn't coming up with the sprinklers. So I emailed this CCD, EDD, all that stuff, and they never got back to me. So I called, and the lady over the phone said that we have to turn the water down because there's not enough water for the building that's going on there. And phase 2, 3, and 4 is coming up. And I'm sure it'll be said, oh, well, that's not really what happened. I don't know why she told you that or whatever. But it is interesting. Is there enough water, that kind of stuff? I mentioned that, and then I'm here tonight. I don't really know what this is or what's happening, or there's a community center, there is a bond. But I want to thank you, all the people that spoke, because I think what I've seen so far troubles me. It looks suspiciously like where I moved from. Where I got out of California and escaped California for this exact kind of reason, where they issue bonds and all that kind of stuff, and then they do have a small little section where they let people come and try to communicate when it's too late, when they have all their little methods in place to get bonds or raise funds that burden all the communities with debt. And then what happens is all of the cities, counties, and the state are flat broke there. And now they're scrambling to stick it to all the taxpayers that live there. That's why the houses are so high, and because they have to get that property tax up to pay for the financial mess that they've created by not letting anybody communicate or have any types of input into what's going on. So with the comments that were made, I hope that this board or whatever will consider in the future that before we issue bonds or buy or whatever it is, or we're going to build a project, you let the community speak first, as the last speaker spoke. Let the community say, well, do we want this or do we not want this? Maybe they do, and maybe we should do it, and maybe there's a way to discuss how to do that. But I don't like the idea, we're gonna have a bond, we're gonna do that kind of stuff. That's what happened in California, it's broke. I escaped there because of the mismanagement there and the disgrace that goes there. My whole life I've lived there and I saw that state fall apart, fall to pieces. I was in law enforcement there for 22 years. And I know I have friends here too that also left California because of the horrific financial mismanagement. And I moved here to get away from that, hoping that all my problems would be behind me. And I'm pretty horrified I hope that my problems aren't just right behind me and now they're right in front of me. I hope that's not the case, because I don't really fully understand what's going on. But I appreciate everybody that spoke tonight, because it's a bravery to do that, and that's very important. I also appreciate the board for having this meeting, for letting people talk, for letting people communicate, for opening and I hope that continues, that we have meetings specifically for this kind of stuff. Not that, we're gonna have a vote to consider the vote, for the possibility of the vote, but maybe we'll have a vote to issue bonds. No, that's not the way we do things. Let the people talk first. If everybody wants to do that another way, there's a place, it's California, you can just go west until you get parked, and you're there.
Fantastic job running this meeting, which could have potentially been a problem. Greg, you and your group, all kidding aside, perfect job. Thank you.
I know we've got some folks in the hall. Could I impose on the folks in the back row yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind, maybe just so they can come in and sort of line up in the back, just so we can have them make their comments as well.
And the closet.
Yeah, in the closet.
You have 44 on Zoom. 44 people on Zoom. I don't know. One person has their hand raised.
Folks, if I could just ask, if you're in the hall, if you can just keep it down for me so the folks in here, we can hear them as well. Thank you. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Shelley, 1121 Indigo Drive. I appreciate all of you. You are my neighbors. You are my friends. No, I don't deserve any personal attacks. But can I ask, could we please get the trees trimmed on Indigo? And can we please have more spraying in East Village?
Spraying. Mosquito? Okay.
And I agree with a lot of people on this record.
And I'm sorry, the tree piece, is it?
It's on the street side.
Okay, I just want to make sure we know.
I can verify that.
Okay, thank you. Mike, I'm sorry, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, Laura Slavic, that's my husband, 529 Greenbrier. What I would like to say is, I think everyone anticipated, I think you all anticipated this was going to be here. In my opinion, this meeting should have been moved to a venue where everyone could have been accommodated.
Right.
And I didn't like that I heard earlier, we're gonna close it because of the fire code. I understand fire code, but you guys knew this meeting.
Okay.
Somebody said it.
Yeah, that one said that. I don't think anybody said that, man.
Yes, I did.
Oh, yes, they did.
We were getting almost too crowded for.
No, I heard you say we are going to close it because we're going.
Well, we have.
Anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just think when you have a meeting that you know, and please don't try and tell me that you all didn't know that this was going to be a very full meeting. That this be moved to a location that can accommodate everyone is not right, that people are having to stand out there in the hall. That's wrong. And I hold all of you responsible for not doing the right thing about the meeting.
Well, okay, let me correct you on this. Okay, because I agree, if we anticipated this was gonna be larger. But when the Facebook post started, the meeting, the meeting was already noticed legally in the newspaper and everywhere else that this was happening at this site. There's no way to change the venue once that is put in place. The only option would have been to cancel this meeting and move it to 2 weeks before, okay? But we still had business to go ahead and attend to. So I apologize, but we were constricted for some of the stuff. And we also have to balance everyone's availability to actually go in that meeting. That would push us into July, and that's when we can budgets, so I apologize for that, but it wasn't just last moment, we knew it was gonna be a lot of people, so we need to move it, so could not do it.
I'm sorry, Tom. I think that the meeting should have been canceled and rescheduled then to accommodate. This is not fair to all of us who pay for all of this.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mike Jackson, 413 Sycamore Street. A lot's been said, and I guess I just want to reflect back a little bit to the meeting about 6 months ago when we had Crow and, I think a couple Crow members were here and the CDD board. And we talked about cooperation, meeting, collaboration, and all those kind of things. Remember? Tom's out in his head.
I do.
Remember, yeah. Well, so that's a good idea. We ought to do that. Well, nobody wants to talk to each other. And I said, go back again and ask again. Put these meetings together. And it got done. I mean, there's been a little bit of communication and collaboration. But you know what? Crow doesn't trust you, and you don't trust Crow. And I can tell you that from the inside because I sit on the finance committee at Crow, and I sit on the audit committee of your CDD. So I see a lot of the inside work. But I gotta tell you, this lack of trust and lack of interest in cooperation, everybody wanting to do their own thing, has got to stop. You see the emotion of people here tonight because they feel uninformed. I agree with you. You've been along the way informing people. I've seen the meetings, I've seen the information, but you've got the cart before the horse right now. First, when you do a project, you're gonna have multiple people together, you have to have trust. And it all begins there. And that doesn't exist right now. That's not a bad thing, you can do it. It's not too late, you can do that. But you gotta stop, slow down, back up, and do the right things. I come from a public company, 44 billion, on an annual basis, we had $1 billion worth of capital spent. So I've seen a lot of capital projects, I've seen them done well, I've seen them done poorly. Was the president of the organization, I was responsible for all of them. Okay? So, I think you need to back up, I think the cart's in front of the horse a little bit. Everything you're doing is exactly right. There's no doubt about it, that's the thing. You can be the financing bank for these projects, you have to be. Because Crow can't finance this kind of money. We don't have the collateral. You've got the tax dollars from the homes, all your homes are the collateral for this type of financing. That's how we're gonna get paid. So a bond person will sell these bonds and that's how it gets done. So I think if you back up a little bit, I don't wanna say put this on hold because that wouldn't be appropriate, but collaborate more with CROA, figure out what it's going to be, where it's going to be. It's gonna be part of 851, all the stuff we've talked about up to now. All those steps should probably get done before you get the financing in place. This is kind of like a pre-approval of a mortgage when you're going to buy a house. It's somewhat the same process that you're looking for to have ready facilities in place. But I just think that people want to see what's going to happen. I know my time is up. So you've got to have the trust of the people too. Pro and CDD have to trust each other. You got to communicate. You have to have good process, but you also have to have the trust of the people. And right now, for whatever reason, I'm not going to blame anybody, but people, back porch, other things, a lot of misinformation, there's no trust. And the anarchy that's going to occur as a result of that is not something any of us want to see. This town is too good, has too many opportunities to go through a process like that. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Cynthia Broom with 829 Spring Park Loop. I've been here 22 years, so I've watched this community grow. I know we have to grow here. There's a lot of indecisions and a lot of hands in the pot. I've run dealerships, run multi-million-dollar different decisions on buildings. I know we have to do something, but right now is not the time. We need to use the facilities that we currently own. This is community center. We have Heritage Hall is being used right now, right? But we have the Lakeside Wolf. What better place to have a community facility than right where there's Life Park? We don't have to spend $40 million for something that we already have that's not being utilized. We have Lot D. What happened with pickleball is, it was all about pickleball. Do we need basketball courts? Yes. Do we need other facilities, maybe air conditioned facilities, other parts where our kids can go to that are just for our residents? Absolutely. And then it can be a return on investment because they can run them out and do things that we do at all the other facilities. Spending this type of money in this time, I deal with the car industry, they're at an all-time low. Why would you use money at the worst time foolishly? Knowing what, we don't even know what's gonna happen. There could be a correction, there's gonna be a correction in the housing market, a huge correction. Cause all this money and all the, when you guys put into these houses, there's gonna be a correction. I own houses, I have 10 of them. I know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be a huge correction. So the money and the inflation and all the materials and the building supplies, like these are things that you need to take in accountability before you make decisions. Let's utilize what we have. There are things that our community needs. If it needs a community center, let's use what we have. Maybe we don't get to rent it out for birthday parties. Or maybe it has to be a shared space like we do for town hall, right? Maybe CROA and CDD come together and take the money that we have and utilize that in town hall. And instead of borrowing money, work together and spend it accordingly and fix up the facilities that we have here. I mean, I was just at Spring Park Blue Pool. I live on Spring Park. I've lived there for 15 years. I busted my toe because I'm sure there's a problem. There's a sinkhole in that area. Maybe not a sinkhole, I won't say that out loud. But there is some settling, right? There's a big, huge crack. And instead of fixing it properly, removing the concrete, restamping it, pressure grouting it, doing the things that need to be done to it, they patched over it. I'm an adult walking there. Can you imagine children? And that's a pool that I support. I live down the street from. We need to use the money and stuff that we have right now for the right, correct thing. And putting back into our community. And if that means everyone needs to get together and figure out how to make it work with what we have. If we have $1.6 million for pickleball, we got $1.6 million to fix our facilities that we have here and add to it. Community centers, basketball courts, whatever it's gonna be. But utilize what we have as a town together instead of adding on extra debt for things that we don't even know in the future. Prices on building houses were $220 a square foot, now they're $500 a square foot. By the time you go out, it could be more.
Thank you.
Hi, Adam Parrish, 405 Sycamore. I've lived here 20 years. I know many of you from the room and on the board. I think the hardest thing is seeing our neighbors in struggle and the challenges. And there were a lot of interesting points brought up tonight, but also there's a lot of fear mongering and a lot of rumor and speculation and all those sort of things. And I think that's what's most concerning to me. I mean, we can laugh at the survey and the equation of it being $25 a person or a door. And that equating, that means my taxes must be only $150. I'm sure there's no one here that only pays $150 in tax, but that was the math that was presented. So it's great fear mongering. There's some great points, some really positive. I think at the end of the day, what this comes down to is having a plan, sharing that plan, and to others' point, making sure that it's well communicated. And many of those steps have been done. Could better be done? Sure. Got our neighbors, myself included, be more active, be better at listening, be better at coming to meetings? Probably. Too often, we knee-jerk reaction. And we think that one step leads to 50 other steps. And it doesn't. I'm sure like many of you, I think everyone in here probably is a homeowner of some kind, it sounds like. Assume that you are vegetarian. Which means that, as others mentioned, you go to the bank and you get a pre-approval letter. That doesn't necessarily mean you found the house of your dreams. That doesn't mean you necessarily found the house that you're gonna buy. But it's the first step in the process. That's what's happening here. So that when you do find out and that plan is ready, the steps are in motion. And the last thing I'll mention is that, yes, it is a trying time financially for many people and for the economy. But also the reason all of us chose to be here was for the amenities and the complexity of this community. And that's not cheap. If you go to communities in Winter Garden or north of Orlando, maybe they check a lot of the boxes, but they don't have the attention to detail. They don't have the amenities. Many folks came from out of state and they go, yes, I want to pay less. That's why I came here. But are they willing to give up the amenities that they gave up from those other places, those established communities? We're 25 years young, which means we have a large hole to fill in terms of the amenities that take Winter Park, communities in South Florida or Southwest Florida, generations to build. We're on generation 2. Don't cut off your nose to spite your face because you want to save a nickel, because that's not the return on investment that this board or the CROA board is established to take care of. It's to grow the value in our homes. That's amenities and services.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Debbie Wisniewski. I live at 1148 Celebration Avenue. I just have some concerns about the $40 million, and it says up to $40 million. Now, my concern is I work in an industry, in insurance, and I have a lot of estimates that I look at. And there's a big difference when it comes to, say, a contractor saying to a homeowner, hey, did you go through insurance? How much money did you get? They hand over that paper, the contractor gives them a bid almost to the dollar of that insurance estimate, but they don't consider stuff in there that's haven't been paid. They're just looking at the total dollar amount. So I tell the client, call up another contractor, flat out tell them you didn't use the insurance, you're paying out of pocket. When they do that, the numbers that the contractor comes in line with what our estimate is. So nothing else, all the extra stuff that they were paid for personal property, if they had to live outside of their home, recoverable depreciation, all that stuff is not in this other person's bid. So my point is that you have something here that you say you have up to $40 million. The concern is that vendors know that there's up to $40 million. So if the facility is going to cost in the private market $15, $20 million to bid, but these vendors are saying that you have up to $40 million, what's keeping them from bidding 38 million, 37.5? There's a huge issue right there. So it just needs to be looked at what the suppliers are, the cost of materials, the cost of labor, all of that stuff needs to be looked at ahead of time. So when vendors come in and they say, hey, this is going to cost $37.5 million, but you have another vendor who's saying it's 20 million, they need to explain the difference in the discrepancies. And so we're not stuck with it because, like I said, as soon as they see that number, 40 million, that's what they're going to aim for. And it doesn't matter what the actual cost is, that's what they're going for. So that's the concern that I have. And like I said, I see this all the time in my industry. And it's just absolutely crazy to me that when people see the number that's presented, that's the maximum that they got or was perceived that is available, that's the number that the vendors charge. So like everybody else, we need amenities, we need stuff done, but we really need to pay attention to what these costs are and what the costs of these supplies are, the labor, all that stuff that goes into it, what the site is. And we just need to make sure that those numbers are in line with what we're paying. My daughter goes to a private high school and they're doing a lot of work in her high school over the summer. They release the numbers to the parents about what they're spending. And it's half of what our Osceola County School District spends for the same stuff. They're building buildings on a concrete block with steel framing on the interior, and it's half the cost. So government contracts, they're just not properly negotiated, and they just see this big number and it's like, hey, we're gonna go after that. And a perfect example, and I know people are gonna need crap for this, but Trump, when the Boeing came in and they said they're building a new Air Force One, they gave him the price, he said that's too much. They reduced the price by 1 billion with a B.
Yeah.
So there needs to be negotiation in the contract.
Yep, absolutely. Is there anybody else out in the hall to come in?
I'll talk one more time. Okay. My name is Joe Grushy.
Sorry, anybody else who hasn't spoken, if you want to come in.
I have 4 properties in Celebration. First and foremost, I'm not gonna be nice about this, but you guys are a little bit of an embarrassment. You left all these people in the hallway, and you could have had a better room for everybody. And you knew this was coming. You knew it was coming, so don't lie about it. Second, from what I can tell, in my whole history of business world, nobody does anything without, number one, lining your pockets, or number two, creating a legacy for themselves. So which one of you are trying to create a legacy for yourself on the backs of all these nice people? And which one of you is getting your pockets lined? These aren't questions, I'm making a statement. They're not a question. So, my concept right here now is, you ought to go home and think about what you just did. Think about what you're doing to all the people in this town. That's all I gotta say.
I know,
Greg, can I go out and turn? I know I was.
No, if anybody hasn't, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Cindy, come on.
I lost. Good evening, everybody. I don't know, I know a lot of you here know who I am. My name is Cindy Swisher. I live at 1204 Downey Place, and I was recently on the parole board and served as president for a year and a half. I wanted to come to this meeting tonight because this whole idea came up while I was serving on the board. And at that time, the damage had already been done to the 851 building. And during the process of evaluating it after the hurricane, other issues in that building came to light that had been going on for years and years. As an example, when Lauren Gunman started working there 2 years ago, one of the first things she was told when she came to work was, oh, and by the way, when it rains, your windows are all gonna leak. Okay, so when this first bubbled up, we had our joint meeting, and pretty well. And I got a call that says, hey, we got a meeting right away, and I said, we might be getting close to, we need to figure out what we're gonna do with this building first. I'm really concerned. It looks like
It's really simple, fix it.
Well,
And then there's no more.
Yeah, do you ever-
Sorry.
have a time?
I'm sorry.
see, I lost train of thought.
I own a home, I build things for everything.
It's okay.
So anyway, we got to a point where we had someone come in and they said, well, you can just fix the outside of this building. They went to the Celebration Company. We found out that there weren't any guidelines for that building. We didn't have to put up the same kind of awnings, because those were causing leaks as well that was going through the walls that nobody knew about. So we can fix that, or we can do that, but we can also put a couple floors on where the activities room is in the far thing. When that's done, then you can move all the staff in there, and you got this space, blah, 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 and figure out what to do with it. Since this all started, we found major issues with all of our other amenities. I appreciate that the CCD, wants to, I don't know if it's gonna be a recreation center, amenity center, or whatever, but we were so proud, as I was working for the previous management company at the time, those boards were so proud that they didn't raise our assessments for like 8 years. It was 9/11 Ford. Those of you who have been here for a while remember. What we should have been doing was raising the assessments in line with inflation and also putting some other money aside. So now we would have money if we decided we wanted to remodel Heritage Hall or something like that. There are people that are on the board that ran under the premise that we will not increase our assessments. You can't have new things, better things. The money's got to come from someplace. Either it comes from your assessments or it comes from taxes. Personally, I would rather see the amenities we have now get back to the state that they should be in for this community, and then worry about, something cosmetologish, which we deserve. But I think that fixing what we have now is the priority. Yes.
Thank you. All right, last call, anybody out in the hallway? Sorry.
No? Ever online?
Yeah, there's some people online that have their hands raised.
Brenda, if you can just go in order of the hands coming up, please.
Yes, sir. So Dick Larson has had his hand up for quite some time. So what I'll do for each of you is I will ask you to unmute your own phone. So Dick, we'll start with you.
Okay, if he doesn't answer, then,
Hey,
oh, there he is.
Yep.
all right. I was trying to unmute, but I was still getting a message that the host had muted me. So sorry for that. I guess, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we got you.
Great. Well, first and foremost, thanks for not forgetting me. It's been a really long meeting for me, but it's been, I'm sure, many times longer for some of you folks. So thanks you in advance for holding it. As I sent you in an email last night, I'm strongly urging you to vote no on item 7C. And I understand your reasons for wanting to spend some money now to find out what do we really mean by a community center. But the fact is, there is no list that shows that a community center is at the top of that list. In fact, you've got this project, CROA has its projects, 851, along with a vast upgrade in amenities, which have been needed for many years. You know, the master planning group is putting together a list. Your own consultant is putting together a list. It's just premature to spend money on this until we find out where this project fits in the list of what Celebration residents would like. So for me, and I think for most residents, I would like to see one list, not the CCDD list, not the CROA list, not the master planning list, but just one. Secondly, the reason I'd like to see that, it doesn't matter who funds what, residents will pay the cost of that, whether it's bonding through CCDD, whether it's through assessments, or CROA can to some extent do bonding. And then, of course, there's the reserve funds. So since I'm going to be paying for all that stuff, I really would like to see all of those projects together, along with at least a ballpark amount of costs, because it could be by funding a community center, we squeeze all the funds out of every other single thing we'd like to do, or maybe not. It's just premature to do that. I would strongly recommend that, you know, as Mike Jackson said, to try to rebuild trust in this project. As a next step, hold a joint meeting with CROA, and in that meeting have a single list of things that we could do and get community input on that. And ideally, there would be at least a ballpark, a guesstimate of cost. It doesn't have to be anywhere near exact, but just sort of how big is the cost and what is the potential upside to homeowner equity. And secondly, although I know you're not required to do this at all, I would really strongly encourage you to hold a vote on whatever final plan you and CROA agree on in terms of projects and costs, and get assurance from the community that this is in fact what they're willing to pay in terms of taxes or assessments for the amenities that they enjoy. And then finally, you know, one point on costing, sure, CCDD can raise money through taxes, but as somebody pointed out earlier, that comes at a risk. And that risk is that it no longer becomes a celebration amenity, it's a county amenity. And yes, Celebration CROA can raise money. They did by 851, but not nearly the amount that you could. But maybe it's better to use that money along with capital funds and reserve funds than run the risk of having a Celebration overrun. So a plea to try to bring folks back together, one project with CROA and yourselves, one set of cost agreements from yourself and CROA, and a vote to ensure that Celebration residents are both completely aware of what's going on, understand the costs of it, and agree that we've got the right priorities. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. Brenda, who's next online?
Next is Janine Duffy. Oops, sorry. Okay. Janine, I asked you to unmute. There you go. She's ready.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Other than what's been, excuse me, I'm Janine Duffy and I live at 311 Norfolk Street here in Celebration. And other than what has been eloquently stated tonight, and a follow-up on Dick Larson's comment, my major concern is that from what I've heard, and this may be a rumor, it may not be true, but that if we do this bond thing, we have to open up those amenities to Osceola County residents. But Celebration would bear the burden, the debt burden. And that to me is extremely concerning when our community has to fund the amenities for all of Osceola County. And that's very concerning to me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank-
Brenda, who is next?
Sorry, I hit her off as she was saying thank you. My apologies. Next is Colin.
Hey, Colin Beck. I live at 839 Lake Evelyn Drive. I guess my comment is, I think there's a debate here about whether or not people want Crow to take out this money or they want CCDD to take out this money. I remember when this idea was floated on Facebook, I don't think many people were in favor of it. And I understand tonight that this is not a vote to take out $40 million in bonds, but it does seem like this is a vote tonight to start spending money and putting money on the checkbook. I wonder if you could comment on what the lawyer fees are going to be and what the bond fees are. I know you talked about it and you said they were kind of reasonable with the joking tone, because my guess is it's probably $700 to $1,400 per hour per attorney, and you probably have about 2 attorneys on the call with Ackerman. So I'm wondering if you could talk about what extent are they billing us for. Same thing with the underwriters council, because I understand that, if we go through with it, if it doesn't go through to it, I assume we're still on the hook for most of that. And this doesn't seem like a project that many people want CCD to take over. Could you comment on what is refundable versus non-refundable and what we'll be responsible for if, as we say, we take out the bonds, but we are starting to open up the checkbook. So if we don't take out the bonds, what portion of these fees are we still responsible for?
All right, thank you, sir. Brenda, who is next?
I'm sorry, Alec Rass.
Alec, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Oh, there he is.
No, was just navigating Zoom. Alec Ross, 952 Starling Drive, president of Celebration League, also a member of the master planning group with CROA. Just a couple comments, and some of them have been said already, but I do want to strongly echo Mike Jackson's comment. I've said this before publicly. CROA and CDD must work together. Their constituents are the same, although CDD does have a couple more. And you're trying to improve the property values, the offerings, the amenities of our community. That's one. I think that's critically important. We have to have trust, and we've just got to knock it off attacking each other. If you have a comment or question, pick up the phone and call. Phones still work. It doesn't have to be in the town square of Facebook. So I think that's just a very, very important message for those two entities to come together. The second note, Jan at the beginning of the meeting laid out very clearly what the objective and the goals were, and I think it's important for everybody to maybe play this back and understand what those were. Everything has a process. Everything takes time to develop, and all of your meetings are public meetings. Everyone's invited. So I think that's important for anyone who's interested to attend those meetings. I've been to several of them. I've taken time out of my schedule to learn and educate myself, and I think that's important as opposed to hearsay or gossip online. I've heard that rumors and gossip, resonate through some of the comments tonight. So I applaud the group. I applaud CROA. Both groups are doing what they think is necessary necessary to move things forward. I'll leave it with one last comment. I do think it's important for CCDD and CROA to share with the community their individual responsibilities. To come to a CCDD meeting and say amenities are in disrepair, that's a CROA responsibility. So there are shared responsibilities amongst the town, and together we can make it, put in a good spot for our future. There's a lot of hope and promise here, and let's just keep pushing to understand what the community wants and what we can afford at the right time.
Okay. Thank you. Brenda, who's next?
Next is Todd Bernhard.
Hi, thank you. My name is Todd Bernhard. I live at 770 Sienna Palm Drive with my wife and daughter. I've spent 2.5 hours yesterday with Greg graciously, who met with us at Starbucks. But even after all of that time and today, I still have not heard what a community center is, especially in comparison to the many clubhouses and pools and gyms and basketball and tennis and parks that we already pay for and have access to. So I think that's extremely important to spell out what the heck are we trying to build that we don't have access to. And I would add that we are not like other communities. In addition to all those amenities I mentioned, we have Disney World, we have ESPN, we have 2 water parks down the road, literally. And many people here rent or are snowbirds or live here precisely because Disney is their form of community and entertainment. And meanwhile, we do have an empty movie theater and an abandoned town hall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me lower his hand. And last is Kelly Prince.
Thank you. My name is Kelly Prince. I live at sub 456 Estuary Lake Loop in Island Village. Apologize up front for my speech as I'm recovering from a stroke. I lived here about a year, so I'm still getting to know all the ins and outs of Celebration. Very happy to be here after 30 years of living in Williamsburg, Deer Creek area, where I was 3 years as president of that HOA. I learned a lot during that time. So I want to applaud the CROA and the board tonight for volunteering their time, because I know it's a very underappreciated position. Communication is the key. You cannot over communicate to the public enough. Celebration, I won't repeat everything that everybody has already said because many people have already spoken. Dick said, 4 speakers back, Dick said most of everything that I wanted to comment on. The only thing that I would add is I believe CROA by state law is required to produce a 5, 10, 15, or maybe even a 20-year plan of repairs, future amenities for the community. I would take a look at that and make those the priority moving forward before jumping into a clubhouse or community center. 40 million to investigate this is a lot of money currently. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak tonight, and look forward to more of these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Brenda, if we don't have anybody else online, we'll press ahead.
You are correct, Mr. Chairman. There is no one else with their hand raised.
Third-party reports and presentations, CROA. I know Don's not online. Is anybody from CROA online?
I am not sure. If you are from CROA on Zoom, can you raise your hand?
Going once, going twice. Okay. Jan Corporation.
We don't have any updates. yet from foreign counters.
Okay, so we did get the memo from you about just so I understand it, they did change the law, so.
The law changed and the outside counsel wrote a letter asking if retroactive application would be,
And that's to the AG, so that's gonna take
yes,
a
so
while.
that'll take some time.
Okay, got it. All right, any other comments, questions on the corporation? Sheriff's Department we already covered, so we have a motion on the consent agenda. Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, business matters, 7A, engagement letter from MBS Capital Markets to serve as underwriter for bond issuance. Angel, do you wanna?
Yes, Jan.
Jan?
Okay, yeah, I can explain this again, just briefly. MBS Capital was the company that handled the bond issues for Celebration. They have the list of all the bond issues and are able to go through the bond issues and have already giving us a little bit of assistance in looking to see what prohibitions there are on additional debt, because every bond issue has a different bond indenture that has different requirements. For them to give us any additional information, they need under securities law and MSRB regulations to disclose the G17 letter and for scope of services. There is no fee for them unless the bonds are issued. It's a 2% of the par amount of bonds or the greater of $50,000. We generally see between 2 and 3%. There are only a very small handful, 2, maybe 3 underwriters that we see that deal with bonds. These are the bonds are generally sold to institutional investors, and there are really only 2 or 3 underwriters that we see in the state of Florida that issue these types of bonds and have institutional investors who buy the bonds that are secured by assessments. So since MBS had the history and has done the other bond issues, they've given a proposal. Again, it can be terminated with 90 days notice. However, if we want to get additional information and assistance, as they've been providing by going through, they were the underwriter for the Island Village bonds as well.
Okay. All right, so for board questions, Dave, you want to fill in?
Well, yeah, and I have to stay true to my philosophy that I just don't like sole sourcing things unless it's absolutely required. To put it that way. And there's, I'm sensitive to the comments made earlier that have we shopped this around? My understanding is no, it's
No,
because
these are the people that have all the background and have the documents just that supported the other.
Did all the current
Yeah,
bonds.
normal bond deals. It would take quite a while for somebody else to get up to speed, but we can certainly ask.
Yeah, so I think 2 parts, both this and for the bond council, if we haven't shopped them in the past, then I believe we have time because we really only need them when we go through a bonding process and we're not there. So in that case, I think we have the time and the ability, I think the obligation to make sure that we have kind of looked at all options, unless there's something in this.
No, I don't disagree with that. However, we do need the input as to the other bond issues, because to issue additional debt, there are several of the bond issues that they've investigated that have prohibitions, so you need bondholder consent. So there is work to be done.
So we end up paying
fairly soon to make sure that bonds can be issued and how you would get the bondholder consent to be able to do that.
I'm sorry, pull that thread for me a little bit more. So when you say.
There are bonds outstanding, and some of the indentures on some of the bonds that have been issued, because there's a number of series outstanding, prohibit additional bond debt on the same house, for example. So depending on the language in the bond indenture, there may have to be the consent of the bondholders to allow additional debt if we were going to issue for community improvements.
So, let me clarify, especially for people in the audience, when you say existing bonds.
Yes.
Which bonds are you talking? I know which one you're talking about.
All the bonds that have been issued on all the homes. There
The
are,
ones that have expired.
yeah, the ones that are paid off are done. Those are done. But
So
the
those
ones
16
where
months
they're
are just in the villages that haven't paid them off, whether they
Correct.
are as a Park, Island Village. There could be another.
Whatever bonds are outstanding.
Okay, right. I just want to clarify.
Yes.
So if there's bonds outstanding and we shop it around and we get, say, another bond, and there's only a handful out there that do this, are we still gonna have to pay them for information because we need information, even if they decide to go with a new or engage with a new bond counsel? So we would end up having to pay them both.
I didn't follow that. We would have to pay somebody to do the work to investigate the
Right.
existing bond issues.
So let me ask the question.
Well,
a
that
different
was,
way.
I guess.
Is the advantage of MBS because they already hold our existing bonds?
Yeah.
That there would not be an upfront cost, as opposed to if we did go with somebody else, there could be upfront costs because there's cost of time and energy for them to do what, to prepare themselves for that, maybe.
They would have to research the indentures and the bond issues. They'd have to investigate if they can find out who the bondholders are. So if they have to approach bondholders to get consent, that they would be able to do that. It's not always apparent who bondholders are.
And to Dave's point, would that be something, the cost of the time and the process of that, if we were to competitively go out to other providers, is that something we could reasonably expect to get back from them in an RFP to say, hey, in order for us to, as a new bond company, to get up to that point, it would cost you X number of dollars just to issue that?
Perhaps. It just depends on who you're dealing with and how much they want the work.
Okay.
I mean,
Go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
You're still on.
No, I'm trying, because I want to follow the thread on what Dave was saying. So the RFP process on that, realistically, because I realize there's a limited number of bond companies based on the size of what we would be looking for. We're not doing a massive, in the world of
It's
bonds,
not-
we are not a
It
massive
isn't so
municipal
much,
bond.
it isn't so much the amount of the bonds, it's the type of bonds and being secured by assessments. There's really handfuls of usually institutional investors that buy bonds secured by assessments. They generally are not marketed to mom and pop type. They are usually held by the big investment companies.
So if we were to decide tonight to go through an RFP process to competitively shop that, give me an idea of, I want to understand the time frame of that, but also how does that compare to your concern about other things that are dependency in the timeline? Is that?
We would have to include both for an underwriter and for bond counsel that there's existing debt that they would have to investigate and give us advice on.
Okay.
So whether they charge for that or whether they include it in their cost.
Yeah, we'd have to evaluate that.
Hold on. So we have another owner comment period coming towards the end of the meeting. You're already closed though. I didn't want you to stand up there forever.
Oh, no, I'm just.
Oh, you're just stretching. Okay, I didn't know. I'm sorry. No, I didn't want you to stand there for like.
So we certainly can try to get, I mean, I'm sure we can get at least one other for bond counsel. We can probably get more than that.
Okay.
But again, it's the experience and the familiarity with the prior bond issues that is of key importance as to how to structure a future bond issue.
And talking about that experience, help me understand at a high level, what's the risk there? Is anybody going to get to the same ending point? It's just going to take them maybe a little bit more time, or is there a real risk that there is some lower value service that they're going to provide in the bond? Or I'm trying to understand what you're saying. It's
If the person who sold and placed the bonds knows the bondholders and generally has a relationship with the bondholders, so if a consent is needed, they would probably be in a better position to help assist the district in negotiating a solution if we need one.
In my simplistic mind, I think this is a straightforward type of ask to go out and bid it. It's like, hey, we're interested in a bond for this much.
However, there are certain indentures out there that prohibit additional bond issues. Correct. So we have to be able to work through those prohibitions. And the underwriter generally has the relationships with the people that have bought the bonds to be able to negotiate.
It's not as easy as throwing an RFP out there.
Okay,
Like
so
a
that
normal
goes
like
to my
landscaping. Yeah.
Are we then restricted to staying with those that we've used before simply because of those bondholder relationships?
Or would the RFP flush that out? Would they be able to look at the RFP and identify the indentures and be able to say, hey, we can't do this?
We don't know what we're doing yet, so putting out an RFP is moot. We would do a statement of qualifications, and there's a handful of these companies out there, and you're gonna get their qualifications, which they all have the same qualifications. And then you would go from there, but we may have to fall back on the current one to be able for whichever one you decide to go with to get information. Does that make sense?
Okay. So I probably need to.
But
get
you're
the
not
details.
beholden.
Is this engagement letter looking at prior bonds, or is this the what we're considering right now moving forward with?
It would be for moving forward, however, they would do the work with the prior bonds to be able to figure out how to structure a future bond. And to get past the prohibitions I think there's 2 bond issues that have prohibitions on debt, I think.
And just so you know, years ago, Celebration had a finance committee, right? They went through these RFPs to come up with the current ones that are now, that did all that. So that work was done previously, which is why Jan essentially just reached out to them because they're the current ones. So.
That's understandable, but I don't think there's anything precluding us from
Nope.
doing that again.
No.
Nope.
Say, send us your art.
Statement of qualifications.
Yep.
Can we do that?
Sure.
Is it, I don't remember from the contract, is there an expiration of their quote? Like, I didn't see one, I didn't think, so if we delayed this 1 or 2 meetings in order to go through that process, will this still be valid? Or would we have to?
Probably not. If we put out RFP for proposals or
RFQ.
for qualifications, everybody would relook at.
They'll
their costs.
resubmit.
Okay.
All right, that's my.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Mhm.
When we came in tonight, this was on the desk.
Mhm.
Okay,
So
is that accurate?
Why don't we finish up with, if you don't mind? So do you want, so an RFP for underwriter for bond counsel as well, because they are in the same position. It
Or,
was
I'm sorry, Angel saying not an RFP or.
RFQ.
it's in RFQ. Yeah,
yeah.
you don't have anything to go out to RFP. They're not coming in to bid on something specific because we don't have
know what we're-
anything. We don't know what, the board
Yeah.
hasn't decided what you're doing.
We don't have a bond.
No.
No. And we
So it would be a statement of qualifications. We would send out, not send out, actually, we would just
would-
ask everyone that we know of that does this work for their statement of qualifications. That would be,
I'm coming up to at least look at that. then.
Sure.
that would be put into the agenda and you all would review it.
And when you do that, the comment was made, I think by a couple folks, there was concern about, and I didn't catch exactly
They
who it was.
will
but some-
provide their licenses and all the
Mhm.
securities information.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for the concern specifically about
Yes,
MBS, it was
we
something
will.
with the manager that, that'll be
Yeah.
part of, okay.
Okay, so. Right,
Do we need that?
Okay, no,
I'm gonna be long-winded,
okay.
and I'm sure I'll offend every single one. But I know I can offend all of you, because I do respect all of you, and we've had challenging things and some really tough decisions to make all the time. We do, we've had to for the budget. Eventually, when we do budgets and stuff, we're take an error in the head because we had to do the right thing, not the popular thing. So listen, I've lived here since 2002. Through good times and bad, everyone goes through good times in their personal life, bad times in their personal life, all that stuff. I'm not insensitive to how much all this will cost, because I'm really not voting on anything that's gonna burden anybody, including myself. That will be selfish, as because obviously there's a point where it's like, this doesn't make sense. Like, we know, and we've all had to make decisions when we're doing stuff in our house where I ain't doing that, right? Because that's just doesn't make sense. One of the things, there's been a lot of stuff said tonight, and one of the things that I've heard primarily is that we really haven't done a good job of communicating. And I'll tell you why, and it's not an excuse, it's a mistake. The CCD in general uses Chrome as their communication piece, always has, okay? And we didn't really work well with them for them to communicate what we were doing. I mean, even if you look at Friday Flash, they list all the meetings, but they don't list the CCD meeting. Used to, they don't. Now, I don't know when that stopped, so I'm not blaming any board or anything. I don't know when that stopped. So, and there's been a lot of stuff, and whether you agree with me or not on this, it's irrelevant. When they talk about letting everybody in Osceola County, we're only talking about a community center. There's a lot of stuff that's just not true. But how would you know it's not true? Because we haven't really clearly communicated it to you. We really haven't sold it to you, right? And so, listen, I know this on agenda, it spooks everybody. We're a little not 100% in sync. And we do this from time to time on the CCD, right? Where we really talk about things and we shelve things if we're not really sure, if we rush or this. We do that because if we don't like it, we're not gonna pass it. And yes, there are things that we pass that we wish we didn't, but we have to do the right thing. And that's a challenge. I won't say I wasn't offended by certain things that people have said, because I know both staff and these gentlemen here and Cassandra that we do have integrity. And that really hurts when people question integrity, because we have to deal with it, sit in these long ass meetings, talking every little thing out of the book for the residents, and we question it. Is it best for the residents? Is it not? This, that. And so I know we're talking about the bonds, I know we're talking about this stuff, but I think we need to take a month to put a communication, reach out plan in place to inform people. Now, I was told on July 23rd, the PROA's MPEG will go ahead and have a community meeting to talk about their final results in the survey. Okay. We are relying a lot of that information. Okay, we're not operating separately. We're relying a lot on that information. We will not move forward without having MPAC finish their job. Okay, and we've always said that in every single meeting, right? And then they're gonna have the giant presentation to figure all that stuff out. All that information doesn't mean Dick's Height is doing something separate. They're waiting for that. That is the next trigger point. So then they can figure out where everything goes. But even having said that, we still have more work to do. I still think we need to hold a little bit until we can communicate to everybody, because I think if I've asked every one of these people, what are we doing? I'm gonna get 50 different answers, right? And I know this is just, that's, investigating and trying to figure this out. But I think there's confusion. And I didn't think we haven't really sold it right, and I think we need to sell it right. Not that I mean selling it to convince you, just selling the facts. You guys are gonna figure it out on your own, right? We're gonna sell you the facts. You don't like it, you don't like it. You like it, you like it. And we haven't even gotten to like numbers, how much things will cost. We don't, just like you said, we'll talk later about what these bonds will cost. And there's, again, a point we can swallow and a point we can't swallow. So my thing is to hold off, not forever, because I know we want to move forward with this. But I think we need to communicate a little better, because here we are talking about, this line, and I think people are confused. I don't think they have the right message, and that's just my opinion. So I would vote no for it now. I might vote yes next month or in August, but just to kind of just to get more communication. I really feel at least we owe that. That's just my opinion, and that's it.
And I just want to tag something onto that. As the CDD is a public entity, we're a government entity, we don't have mechanisms to communicate to residents. We don't have your information like CROA and HOAs do. They're a private entity. We have our CDD website, which we can absolutely post things on there. Not a lot of people go to that website. We did create a Facebook page a while ago, but information like this, we don't put out on it. It's more project driven. We can put information like this out there. So just so you know that we're very limited in the forums that we have to communicate.
And we could notify people our meetings through my celebration app. That'll come up.
Yes, we can send out notifications as far as meetings and stuff like that through the My Celebration app. That's absolutely correct.
So one last thing. I don't remember who the gentleman was. I guess they said we either profit from this or get
pockets line.
I wish I did. I tell you,
you get $100 a meeting.
When I was in PROA, I got a donut once a month.
Where did you get the donut from?
Somebody brought it to me, and I guaranteed I ate that donut every month. There's a stipend we get paid. Each board member where they elect to it. I get paid. I don't know, it's 180. I don't know how much it is. That's it. I don't get anything. So I don't, if we spend.
And you get paid the same whether we do the podcast.
Yes.
We could have made this.
I'm gonna be losing money. Yeah, I know, but I guess what I'm saying is we don't. And I've known these gentlemen, listen, I would not be on this board if I thought everybody here was, forget it, I'd be running. I wouldn't join it. So.
Yeah, and to add on, that nobody in the board, the two board members cannot talk to each other.
Yeah, we can only do
Because
work
the Sunshine Law.
at the meeting,
Yes.
which is a disadvantage.
Because the Sunshine Law is so broad in Florida, it prohibits two board members from talking about any business that could come before the board. So everything that's talked about or approved happens at a CDD meeting.
And important to that, because it's been a lot of the questions I've seen, and I've been watching rolling by as I scroll. Facebook is a perfect example, as you brought up. If I were to post something on Facebook, even though I'm not talking to Tom, if Tom then goes and reads that, or if I send an email to somebody, that person then turns around and forwards it to Tom, that has now become a Sunshine Law violation, because we're not supposed to be talking. And so
Yes, communication is very difficult. We are constantly reminding to our board members, do not use Facebook, do not post anything because someone then responds and suddenly you have a Facebook violation. They can't send emails to each other, texts to each other, and the communications are very difficult.
But I will tell you, as a board
Website.
member, it's frustrating to sit there and watch over the past week. Misinformation and accusations and just general questions. I mean, the biggest frustration was, I think 90% of it was just, hey, people didn't know, and you get one wrong comment and that death spiral. The inability for me to come in and say, hey, everybody, hold on for a second, here's what it is. I can't do that. And that's why I did say, hey, and I made sure I phrased it as I did when I went on Facebook and said, hey, not that I'm talking about anything in particular, but if anybody would like to come out, as we're entitled to do as supervisors, to engage with the community and have a discussion, anybody can do that. That's where I like to go out and have that conversation. But if you look at the post I had, that was not a public meeting. That was anybody who would like to come ask questions, but anybody who was there also noticed that I didn't talk about how I was going to vote tonight or any of the questions I have. It was a commentary about things we had already talked about, or just general, hey, what's the CDD do? That kind of stuff to explain where we're at. But as a board member, I both respect it, and sometimes I just want to pull my hair out about the inability for us to talk about things, unlike, as an example, Crow. And I don't hold them ill for that. That's just the reality. They play under a different set of rules than I do. So, sorry, Tom.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. I don't want to take more questions.
We have questions at the end of the meeting, at the end of the
Yeah, it
meeting.
could be at the end of
So, yeah, let us continue, because apparently we moved item E to item A.
Right.
Is that where we are now?
Well,
Hey, listen, I'm one vote. I'm just saying that, that's just my feeling. So if everyone doesn't agree, you gotta.
Angel,
What?
what's the accuracy of this?
So what we did, as we mentioned at the last meeting, because you were talking about issuing a bond and we wanted to see kind of what that snapshot would look like. So that's in front of you. And again, we did it 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million. And this is future debt. So this would be debt service, not operation maintenance, just debt service
Per year.
per year,
30
30 years plus, and based on 7% interest. So again, when you actually issue bonds, if you do, these numbers could go either way, fluctuate a little bit, but this is basically the gist of it.
Includes Island Village and Artisan?
No, that's a different bond.
That, yeah,
No, that's.
no, I know what he's asking.
Oh.
So this was asked at the last meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me make sure, but I believe this covers.
It's how many lots are encumbered.
Oh, you're talking about that, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And this is good. This will fluctuate with the, Brenda.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I just want to make sure.
Yes.
It covers everything currently in celebration right now. And this, again, it may vary a little bit. Yeah, it may vary a little bit depending what the rates are and all of that stuff, but this is it.
I'm not ready to vote on.
Minus
issue.
operation and
And I
maintenance.
personally feel that this expense is ridiculous. So I'm just gonna shut up.
Thank you.
Okay. So I got a couple questions and I want to respond to not all of them, but a few specific items. Somebody had asked, and it was kind of a common theme, why CDD and particularly in lieu of CROA. CDD under state law and most CDDs do have the ability, and a lot of them do, and take Dave and also staff on that since Dave does this full time, do run amendments. So while it is not precedented in celebration, just because of the way it was established, there are absolutely provisions for that in state law. So that's where, as we've had conversations over the past 14, 16 months on this, that was one of the threads that came up. And as I mentioned in prior meetings, there's just a reality. And again, it's not a ding on Pro, so I don't take it as a negative, but there's a limitation on what Pro can do based on the way that they get funded. I also look at that there have been several questions, and it kind of hovers around, and I, as a CROA constituent, I agree. The prioritization of getting right what we already have on the books. I agree with that, and I say that both as a CROA constituent with CROA things, and as a CDD board member responsible for the CDD things. It has been an unpopular thing that Jack and I have been on for now our 4th year. We've had to do 3 years in a row, and these two gentlemen had to do it last year. To be the first board in 28 years that stood up and said, town, it's time you gotta take your medicine. Because prior to those 28 years, there was not a single increase in assessments by this CDD in 28 years. We were borrowing out of reserves, not to do reserve projects. We were borrowing out of reserves just to pay the bills to keep the lights on in operational parks. That was not fair either to the future board that inherited that or to the residents who all of a sudden came up and said, hey, after 28 years, why am I stuck with 1, 2, and now we are, yes, it has been, to be published, to be getting letters out for a 3rd year of assessment. And this is even aside from what we're talking about in the community center piece. As Tom said, and I'll echo it again, we all pay that as well. We live here, we're residents to that. But there's a reality that the growth of Celebration will stop, and there is just based on the way we accrue funds, there is a train at the end of the tunnel. It's about 3 years out that we will stop increasing our assessments because the final development of town will be done. And that's going to quickly catch up to us because at the same time, the infrastructure is aging. 10 or 15 years ago, prior boards didn't have to worry about, we're literally talking about millions of dollars of sidewalk repairs. That's just sidewalks. That's never mind pond restorations. It's never mind millions of dollars of boardwalks, everything else we have to take a look at. So I am frustrated as a resident and as a board member that we had to come up and be the ones to finally say, hey guys, once, not twice, but 3 years in a row now, we are going to be coming to you and saying we need to do a double-digit assessment increase. We haven't voted on that yet. Draft letters will be coming out in a week or two. That was the draft budget. By state law, those can only go down from there. We can't go over that number. That will be voted on July meeting.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so I say that because, again, that's not specific to the bond issue. I think we're kind of taking some points of personal privilege here, but it all ties together. I'm trying to hear the temperature of the room and understand the frustrations on the financing pieces and all the things that tie together, because they do, right? This isn't just one project. It's the entire picture that we're hearing. I'm hearing from the room as well. I would also say the communication piece is absolutely a challenge. And we have not done it well, but there's also a recognition of the limitations that are on us. That's not an excuse. That's a challenge for us to figure out how to work within those limitations to communicate that better. So I do want to talk about, not here, but towards the end as an open comment. I'm putting it on notice for everybody here. I do want to talk about communications, but I want to do that at the end just so we can get through the bond comment here. The last thing I'm going to say, and again, it kind of goes in the line with the, hey, we're unfortunately the board that has to tell everybody these are some of the bad pills that have to be swallowed, and that's just from the operational piece that's outside of the bond. I've got to say, and it's going to be an unpopular commentary, but I hope it's taken as an honest commentary and one that you guys can respect. We need from you as well in order to make this work, whether we're just talking about the regular operational costs or whether we're talking about trying to do a project. Respectfully, the gentleman who came in and talked about us lining our pockets, I got to grit my teeth and let that one go by. And it's the right for anybody to say any of that kind of stuff, but it's also frustrating for me as a homeowner and a volunteer here to be able to say, I could be sitting at home with my kids right now, and I'm not, because I'm in here trying to figure out, is there something we can be doing to help improve the community from the frustration I've heard and I've had as a resident for now 13 years in Celebration, to be able to say, there are things we as a community need or could do better. And maybe this happens and maybe it doesn't. But I have to commend the board here. We're at least trying to have the dialogue, and we are trying to have it with CROA. We have had now 3 joint workshops over the past 14 months with CROA. There's been challenges because there's been different boards and rotation and different priorities and everything else. I think I can speak for this board and certainly myself. I'm committed to continue to try to make those engagements to happen, to work with our impact group and our consulting group to figure out, is there really the need and desire to do this? We may get 3 or 6 months down the road on this with Dick's Height, and the feedback may come back that, hey, you're baseline right. You're kind of comparatively where you should be. Or conversely, it may come back with, hey, there's really not an appetite in the community to do that, at which point it's okay to stop. There's nothing that we could potentially be voting on tonight, and I'm not in support of voting on this tonight, but there's nothing in the immediate future where we are floating a bond because we haven't identified it. However, the thing about the community, and maybe I will be unpopular for saying that, I probably will, we need you all to have trust in us as well. And I understand and I respect, I really do respect Mike Jackson's comments earlier, and a lot of people echoed that about trust between the boards. We need that trust in our board as well, and we need to earn that trust. So I'm not saying you should just be giving it blanket. So to Tom's point, whether that's through communication or whatever else, we need to earn that from you. But when you go on social media, when you go on comments about conflicts of interest, I've seen posts about because my wife is the president of PTA, and we're talking about getting it on the school property over there, somehow there's a conflict of interest. I volunteer with the school district to do their business advisory board, which has nothing to do with the transfer of land. It has to do with capital projects of building new schools. Again, that's been somehow claimed for me as a conflict of interest, that I can't have this conversation about possibly looking to do a deal with the school district on there. And I say that for all that, I'm just speaking of what I have heard personally to me and to my family, just for bringing up the conversation to say, hey, is there something we can do better for the community? If that's not right, then that's okay. I'll fall on that sword and I'll say that it wasn't right for me to raise it. But I do think I'm right for having asked the question. And I think the rest of us are right for at least exploring this option, trying to work with PRO, trying to work with other stakeholders to do that. So what I would ask is for the community, everybody online, everybody who's going to watch this later, just the decency and the trust. And I owe it to you to come out and try to have more conversations at Starbucks or have phone calls. I need you to owe it to us as we're having these meetings, and we'll try to communicate it better. And one of my items on here as well, I understand just the logistics of being in this room. We need to take a look at, can we have a bigger room somewhere, whether we need to go to the library or something. There's a reality that needs.
We're not gonna issue a bond for a bigger room.
Well, understand.
Okay.
But if we need to take a look at doing this at a, and there's limitations of where we can do it in town, it's just a reality. But I hear and agree with those comments and those concerns that we at least need to be able to bring you into the conversation physically to be able to do that. But there's got to be trust to be able to do that. If the fervor, and I know where some of it's coming, and I'm not going to say it out loud, but there is absolutely, you watch the common threads on social media and everywhere else, and I can connect the dots. And I can see where some of those go back, because I've heard the origination of some of those comments of 2 or 3 or 4 people. And now what it's unfortunately done is spiraled out. And like I said, there are absolutely things that we need to clarify better. So there are facts that are in there that we need to explain to you. But there's also things that have been, I'll say, permutations of facts, and there have been things which are just outright lies. And that's frustrating as a board to have to try to backpedal that. We need to do better to try to get that to you, and we need you all to be able to come in and engage us. And I appreciate that for the most part, it wasn't done with pitchforks and knives. So I'll get off.
Nobody threw it.
Yeah, nobody threw it. Meeting's not over yet.
Right, no.
I'm gonna get one other thing. It was brought up continuously that if the CDD does this, then it opens up all of our amenities to Osceola County. Yes, it does, and it doesn't, because we're gonna lay a number of restrictions on there requiring these individuals to pay the same amount of dues that you're paying to the homeowners association in order to use these facilities. So anybody wants to pay $1,300 to use the facility, I welcome in. I'll take your $1,300, but you're not going to find it happen.
And we don't know that $1,300 is the number, but that has been absolutely, listen, when we started this conversation 14 or 16 months ago, one of the first questions I posed to Jan and to Angel and just Dave because of his experience, what's the trend? Because this is not the first time a CDD has done this in the state of Florida. CDDs widely do that. We're one of the few that don't do this kind of infrastructure, and that's because Crow has traditionally done that. The answer I've gotten back from staff, and please again chime in, is that the amount tends to generally be prohibitive. Yes, we have to open it up, but when you look at whether it's 1,300, 2,000, or 800, whatever, to be able to tell somebody from wherever outside of Celebration, hey, if you want to play in the basketball court, you need to pay $500 or $1,000. What are most people probably going to do? They're going to go find another basketball court somewhere else in the county. There's just a reality to that. Can we expressly prohibit it? No. By state law, this is one of the downsides of, because CDD would bond it, if we did go through with this, that's absolutely a challenge. So then becomes the discussion, do we simply not do anything because of the potential for that happening? Or do we do it and figure out how best we can address that and mitigate your issue?
No, that is accurate, but I will tell you, we have many districts and they set non-resident user fees and people do purchase them. They do. I mean, that's a reality. So
Is it a lot of people?
I tried to do a little bit of homework over the weekend as I was getting phone calls. And I tried to look, it kind of varies. I'll tell you, there's one in Pasco County that in that whole county, there's not a skate park, right? And this one community built a skate park. And the fees to get into that or to use the non-resident user fees is something of their highest assessment. I want to say it's like $3,500 for a year. And they have 7 people that purchased, but on any given time, those 7 people may not have even used it a handful of times. Fishhawk is another one. I do know the manager of Fishhawk, so I called specifically, and there are 4 people who actively have purchased a non-resident user fee. Harmony is another one out here. They have a lot of amenities, and I have been managing Harmony for 4 years, and I have not had one non-resident purchase that thing. So it varies across the state. There are people who will purchase them, yes, depending on what the amenity is. But
having said that, today, CROA, in our organization, there's people that come from outside Celebration, have tennis lessons. There's the summer blast.
Oh, yeah.
And there is resident fees and non-resident fees. The same thing in
So it'd be the
soccer
same.
field, the
Yeah.
same. So it's really funny.
I challenge anybody to go to a playground in town, a few that are open right now, to go in there on a Saturday afternoon and start counting heads and say, I've got 30 to 40% of the people, and that's in a CROA controlled facility, aren't from town.
Yeah, so that's the thing is, I want to always make sure we have the fact that they're the 6,000 foot level facts, because these are little sound bites people put in, and let's go ahead and scare everybody so we can kill everything. If we have the facts alone are going to determine should we or shouldn't we, does it make sense or doesn't it make sense? If we make things up, this is where we can't make an intelligent decision. And as a community, we all lose because we couldn't make the right informed decision. So that's the big thing. We might all say, you know what, this doesn't make sense, but at least we would have the right information to make that decision. So,
Well, Tom, since you kicked off Soapbox Derby.
I did.
When it comes to listening to the community, which is a fraught term, but I'll bring it up since that's what a lot of people rely on as a crutch when they want to be heard. And what I would offer to the community is that we did listen. And the reason we're here is because we listen. And the example I'll give is where we all remember back the day where a referendum was held. And the result of that referendum was that I will say, a community mandate to get a master plan. Now, we can argue whether that really was the purpose of it, but that's what I heard loud and clear. And I'm not the only one. And so when the call for a master plan came up, the next question is, well, how do you do that? And I know how to do that, which is you have somebody that does this for a living, and who we have chosen has deep roots in Celebration. We go to them and say, all right, we need a master plan. Whether we have one or not, we're gonna need an updated one because the community is after one. And that's where we are today. We don't have a plan yet because we just kicked this off. So we'll go through the scope right now, but CROA is absolutely part of that also. So when we say we're going to coordinate with CROA, that's already been going on and continues. I talked to 3 CROA board members, 1 including today, and we'll have conversations on how we move forward with this. And so while Greg and Tom and Jack are talking the high level stuff, on the tactical side, we have a plan, which we have brought to this board. We've looked at and put out an RFP in order to get, all right, who's the best person out there to go through this process? We selected one. And part of what we're doing tonight is going to go through their steps, their scope, step by step. And it's voluminous. It's a long process, but it has to be that way because you have to unturn all the stones. And a majority of that process is going to be the community engagement. That is still developing, as we see. We've already got the surveys that went out to everybody, and that was CROA initiated through MPHE. And our group, which is Dig Site, so if you ever hear us bring up the term Dig Site, that is our consultant that, and you could look back at their presentation that we did in the joint meeting, has a long storied history with the town and, knows where all the bodies are buried and understands more than I do, or any of us do, how we got where we are. And also has that, knowledge of the marketplace and other communities to see what works elsewhere. A lot of that is that we don't know what we don't know. And we're going through the process of talking to the people that do to give us, and by us, I mean our community, a better picture of where we are and where we could go. So again, we're gonna go through this in finer detail with the big site scope, but it includes them looking at other communities, researching what we got now. When I mean researching what we got now, I know one of residents came up like, hey, we need to utilize what we already have. 100% absolutely. And this group is gonna take a look at each of our facilities and say where we are and are not utilizing effectively. And then they're gonna identify a gap, or maybe they don't, but we'll just assume that they identify a gap. Hey, you don't have this, I'll bring up pickleball. You don't have this, maybe it's basketball, maybe it's tennis, maybe it's a senior center, maybe it's a team center. We're throwing out a lot of things, and community center is one of them, and to be honest, it is ill-defined right now. We cannot tell you, none of us here can tell you what a community center is, because we don't know. That's why we have these people here to look at that and identify other centers and see where our gaps are and what could go in the community center. And on top of that, once they do it, they'll take a look at the universe of property here in town, regardless of who owns it, whether it's that lot, or this lot, or that lot that's on the boulevard, or somewhere else. They're gonna take a look at the universe and say, these are the gaps, this is where we think Celebration could have additional amenities, bring them on par, if not beyond, where some other communities have. And where it fits. And then what they're gonna do is say, it's gonna cost this much. Not only is it gonna cost this much, it's gonna cost this much to maintain this every year too. So they're gonna have this wonderful plan as a community that we'll be able to say, it's a menu. You're gonna have this, 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 and this. And this is what the total capital cost is gonna be. And this is how much it's gonna run each of these per year. Here you go, choose. You wanna do it all? It's gonna cost this much. You wanna do nothing? It's gonna cost zero. Or is it somewhere in between? We're going through that process. We're not telling anybody what to choose, but we're giving you the menu.
Will you be part of that committee?
Yes, so again, we're gonna go through this and
Hold
part
on,
of the
so we did not get the scope back from them. yet.
Yeah.
So we don't have that tonight. The
Well,
revised scope,
we have an original scope, which
yeah,
has.
we
a
have the
community-
original.
So the answer to the question is yes. Okay. They're in community engagement. It can take many forms. It could be another survey, it might not. It could be actually going to each individual person and saying, what you really are passionate about this community. And they might form focus groups to say, all right, you're interested in lawn bowling or whatever. Example.
Bless you.
What does that look like? How many do you need? How many
It is
people
so
do you need?
cool.
And all what you said makes perfect sense to all of us, I think. I speak for everybody, I think. That
They haven't turned on good yet, so.
Not yet.
So good.
but they're behind me, so.
I'll warn you.
Our biggest issue here is that Paul sent me the agenda for this meeting and said, have you seen this? No one else had seen it. Right, that's our biggest issue. Now, you turned around and said, Angel, that we haven't got a way of telling people because we're a government department. Well, sorry, like yourself, I've been involved, I've redeveloped towns. And the most important thing is telling people and having a poster outside the office.
Well, and again.
The agenda's on the website too, by the way.
No, I'm not talking about agenda, because the agenda, we kind of, that's the next stage, the voting. What everybody's alarmed about here tonight is that, oh my God, there's a resolution that they're going to spend $40 million on whatever they want, but that's not quite the case. Now we've heard what you all said. And if there was more communication, if there was a sign on the wall or like that map, where this is our aspiration of what we want to do. When I've developed a town, you didn't post that you want to raise a bond for $40 million. It's backwards. You go, hold on a minute, here's the list of items that we want to do. We think it's going to cost 40 million. Raising the bond, there is 100 people out there who, regardless what your attorney says, that will lend you money. You're a town.
But again,
That's-
to make sure it's understood, we are not voting on the bond because we are starting to incur costs. We've already signed a contract with Dix Site. That happened 3-4 months ago to start this process. And we have had CROA and the master planning group. We specifically had CROA members in here as we were doing that interview process. We had 4 companies and we spent about 5 hours in here one interviewing those 4 companies. And it was with some of CROA's representatives in hand to say, hey guys, can we bring, because we've got 2 very different dynamics between the 2 sides. We've got a professional development company on one side that can come in and do the, as Dave would say, do that professional piece. What MPAG brings, in my mind, is it brings residents who understand what the history of the town is and being able to digest and work with Dix Site to be able to say, hey, when we see these things come up, this is kind of what we think we need. And to be able to help put a resident piece on that as a committee to be able to make Dix Site more efficient. But in order to start paying the bills, if we don't vote, and I'm not saying tonight, but at some point to do a resolution, whether it's with MBS or somebody else, we will not be able to recapitalize the money that we'll be spending on the front end. And it's not just for Dix Site, it's going to be attorney's fees, it's going to be program management fees as we go down the road. We won't be able to recoup those back into an amortized bond. We'll have to do it all as an upfront loaded cost out of reserves.
But if you were doing this in the private sector, you would have a budget for that. And you would go, right, the budget for the first stage is this.
The problem is we haven't defined what that is. That's the process that we're going through.
So
understand
I just want to, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you at all. If you're gonna allow audience comments, there's people on Zoom who want to comment as well.
I figured you would say that.
Because they have their hands raised and Brenda's getting messages.
Yeah, okay. So Dave, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, so, in conclusion, I will say that actually, I'm an optimist, and I love the fact that we had all the people come out today because it shows that interest in what we're doing. I want to get this is one way we're gonna get the information out there. We're gonna work with staff and the rest of the board in order to find more positive communication, but we are at the preliminary stage now, so it's not much to share.
Exploratory.
Yeah.
Is really the definition.
Okay.
All right. So with that, I think I will make a motion.
For A and B, are we still on A?
Yeah.
If you're gonna table it or ask us to go out to SOQ, you don't need a motion.
Table. Okay. Do you need a motion just to?
Just direct us to RFQ A and B.
Okay.
So that's, okay, for both of those, I'm assuming.
Well, so let me ask the question, since we're not on B, is there any value to?
Well, they
bringing
go
on
hand
the-
in hand.
Okay, so there's no value to bringing on the bond attorney right now. My concern is if you go to the RFQ stage, are we gonna need the bond attorney to help answer some of the questions you were talking about before, the complexities of bringing in a new?
Yes, we would, I would recommend we don't do the reimbursement resolution if we have another bond attorney. Because this attorney prepared that.
Ackerman prepared it.
Prepared that, and Ackerman has met with us several times to give us tax advice.
So
on
I'm sorry,
questions
are
that
you
come up.
recommending then that we go ahead and move forward on the bond attorney motion, or that we table that as well?
Table both.
If you want to table both, that's fine, but then I would not recommend you adopt the reimbursement resolution. That would be-
Right, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask the question a different way, I'm sorry. In order for, because there are additional complexities, if we go to RFQ with somebody other than MDS, are you gonna need bond counsel to be able to help you with that we need to approve bond counsel now? Or are you gonna be able to handle that to
I
get through
think
the
Dave,
RFQ process?
I think Dave wants to RFQ.
On both.
The feeling is RFQs on both.
Well, I understand
We
Dave
can
wants to,
put
but
together-
I wanna make sure that,
We can put together a statement of qualifications and then they will have to have some assistance. You know, they may need to gather information from Ackerman or MBS.
Okay.
So there may be a cost there.
But in short, what you're saying is that we go in table A and B, we go out and get the RFQs, and that in turn, table C.
Yes.
So that
Mhm.
is, now, does that put any of the current expenditures
Yeah,
that we
the-
can expect to
The sooner,
capitalize?
yes, the sooner you adopt the reimbursement resolution, the tax clock starts ticking. Usually it's a 60-day period. So
Because
that's
we're
why
already
we wanna-
expending
All right,
funds.
yeah, so because we are, so
Mm-hmm.
here's the $64,000 question.
Exactly.
Can we capitalize anything that's been spent from today back?
Generally, it's 60 days from the date of the reimbursement resolution.
Right.
60 days backwards?
Yeah, 60
Yes.
days
Okay, got it.
backwards.
All right,
So if we
don't
push
do
this
now,
out another
Yeah.
30 days, Yes, essentially, yes. From the time we started.
Well,
Well, we've incurred. How much cost did it?
We have, yeah, we haven't paid Dick's Height yet.
Well, we've
Well,
only,
okay,
we've only approved in their contract.
Is it when it's, here's that kind of question, by approval or
Hold
by?
on. We
I'd
have,
have to ask the tax lawyer
Yeah.
though. and-
We've
I'm sorry,
approved
that-
two
that's
work
why
orders.
We like haven't,
But the total's about 25-30,000.
no. The total is, one is for 65, the total's for 90,000.
That's right.
we
This is the
approved,
last one.
but
Yeah.
we approved 25.
Well, they approved in the last meeting the 65, so we're up to 90,000 between two work orders.
But that's all contingent on the revised statement of work that we have.
Yes, that we're waiting for and the work.
The second work order is.
So
the
they
first
could not
one's
be
not.
expending against anything above the 25,000 because we haven't approved the second statement.
No, they already started expending work, which is why
Okay.
you approved the 65,000, because they were already well over the 25,000, which is carried into work order number 2 and what we're trying to figure out right now. So yes,
So,
Yeah, I mean,
what Jen's wanting us to do is, we can RFQ the MBS guy all we want, the underwriter, but
but having bond counsel now, so you have a reimbursement resolution and you have somebody answering your tax questions.
They're recommending we table 7A and 7C, but go ahead and.
no, approving B and C.
Yeah, tabling it.
Tabling A, going out for RFQ for our statement of qualifications for A.
And honestly, I mean, it's reimbursing, a few $1,000s or whatever is beyond that 60 days if you want to table it in a month. But it's still, I think, fiduciarily, we should probably approve the C so that we can get that. It's the most.
But the risk of not approving C is whenever we do approve C, we can only go backwards 60 days.
60 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question. This doesn't mean
This down our throat no matter what.
this,
This is wrong.
can I speak? This doesn't mean we are going to go ahead and issue a bond.
No,
No.
it does not.
That's fine, right, lawyer?
You're just gonna start.
So it doesn't,
Your intended issue.
Can you please let us finish?
Just shove it down, please.
I'm just going for it. I can ignore it.
I have to, because, you know,
Just.
so I just want to make sure that we are, this doesn't mean we're approving a bond. Because if we don't approve a bond, then we'll just have to pay for it.
Correct.
Correct. Evan.
That is
I
correct.
want to be very clear about that. Is the,
All this is every, say if you were to spend $5 or $500,000 on Dick's Height to go through this process and the board decided we're not issuing bonds, well, then the board's gonna have to pay Dick's Height and you're not gonna get reimbursed for it. That's all this
Just
means.
their reserves.
This does not mean you're obligated to issue bonds, nothing. It means if you do, we can get reimbursement for things that we've
So-
spent.
so
That's
let-
all it is.
Let me ask the question a different way then. So because we have approved up to approximately $90,000 on Dick's Height,
Mhm.
that should carry us, if I remember right, in the schedule piece for the next 3 months worth of work-ish, 2 to 3
Yeah, I think
months?
they've we're already 1 month in, we'll probably get another 45 days, plus minus 15.
So the downside would be if we don't approve C now and we approve C by the time they get to the end of the $90,000 worth of funding, the downside there is the 90,000, we're gonna spend it one way or another, whether we spend it in an amortized bond or we just spend it out of reserves. Am I right? That's the only downside.
You're gonna
Yes,
spend it
that's-
any,
yeah,
either
you're
way.
gonna
It's just a
spend it
matter
either
of
way.
getting reimbursed for it. That's it.
When you say reimbursed,
Out of the bond proceeds.
out of the bond thing, which again,
Yes.
it just means it's gonna
It's
amortize over
excess,
30
yeah.
years versus it's just coming up.
All right, you know, I don't see us
That's it.
doing this bond issue at all. I
I
don't see
can't,
it,
well, I don't know.
unless we see a lot less money on the table than that. I don't see us doing it. So either way, we're gonna be paying it out of reserve.
Could I just add one thing that
No,
might help?
if you
The lawyer that you're talking about
Yeah.
appointing,
But
if
you-
you go
you
to
can let us
another
know.
bond company, you'd have to get another lawyer.
no, I'm just saying, if we answer, just like Angel said, if we listen to the audience, we're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Address everyone online, we're never, we'll be here.
So I will, Dave, go ahead. I was gonna make a
Well,
motion.
yeah, my proposal would be is that we table A and we approve B and C. And for the reasoning is that enables us to start the 60-day clock so that we can capture all of the reimbursement funds spent today.
Okay, so I got a motion on the table to approve, to table A and to approve B and C. Do I have a second? I'm going to have a second, but none of us. I will make a motion to table A, B, and C. I'm sorry, to table A and to table C. Well,
What?
sorry, let me back up one more time.
If you're not gonna do any of it, you don't need bond counsel.
We don't need bond counsel.
No.
Okay.
If you're gonna approve the
that was my
resolution, you need bond counsel.
If the downside is that we're simply going to have to eat potentially up to 90,000 out of reserves, then I would prefer to do that. So I would motion to table 7A, 7B, and 7C for now, pending the RFQ coming back. And and the RFQ, we're clear, we would also be doing that on bond counsel as well. Okay, so I'll make that motion. Got a second? Second. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Right.
You don't want a table?
Table is fine, you got two votes.
No,
I disagree with.
So 3-1.
Well, that's fine. I'm sorry, but I want to make sure are you voting yes or no on tabling 7, A, B, and C?
He's voting nay.
On all three, because I don't see
No.
it's going to art.
No, but
Well,
that's what we're doing.
The
We're
motion is to
tabling.
table, so if you don't want to do them, then your motion would be yes. Table. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's what he meant.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. Okay, so you are in agreement to table A, B, and C. Okay,
So 4,
and Dave,
I will vote no.
okay, so 3-1.
3-1.
Okay,
Dave.
perfect, okay. 7D, do we have anything to talk because we don't have a scope change?
No,
No, we
don't.
don't. We went through their scope and marked up what Infomart can do and what we don't need, and they gave input and they are reviewing it.
Okay. Dave, you talked before about the scope on the big site piece. Was there anything you wanted to bring up again, just since folks are here? Or
Standby. Where is it? Okay. I mean, the update is that what is public is the scope that they were contracted under. And after our joint meeting, there was some things that bubbled up for service that needed to be added to it. And opportunities for additional research and services, and those that might not be necessary at all. And so we went through the process of updating it, culling this and adding that. In short, they have accomplished already the initial coordination and kickoff meeting and the dream session, which is what the joint meeting was. The idea here is that what they've already been contracted for is the research, what we've already gone over this time, looking at comparables, and creating a base map of what is on the table as far as existing facilities and where they are and what they could do, and analyzing those facilities, and then gathering data and to include interaction with CROA and MPAG on what's been done today. So that's going to take us through apparently July. Is that when MPAG is going to be ready?
I think August. That's what
Well,
they said. At the
that-
joint meeting, they said
gave me
August.
the data. So I thought that was July. But anyway,
Electrical fair, the data was supposed to compile, it wasn't supposed to be until like August 14th.
Before they would compile.
But
Yeah.
I'm sure they are having a meeting, a town meeting.
Okay,
to
well,
talk about that.
At what,
So I
at
don't
what
know.
point it becomes available to us to
Which is
provide
probably
that
August.
That brings us to that date. And so after that is done, the research is done, then we will be at a milestone and a decision point where we want to go forward with public engagement.
Any other questions or comments on the dig site piece for now? 7E, unless there's any other commentary, let's get past that.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that I think we're getting thrown terminology wise by calling this a community center project, because it's not. This is a amenity master plan.
Yeah, so I agree, let's change the, because, and again, for everybody's awareness in the room, in the last conversation we had with CROA, there was discussion about if they wanted to partner with us, and there's a variety of different options, how we might be able to do that, and there's complexities, if they're private or public board, but about being able to do other things other than a community center, or in addition to a community center, whether they're outdoor recreation areas or any other amenity type of thing. So I agree. I think with our agenda items and even in the bond language, I think there was, I saw the wording in there was capital improvement or capital amenity improvements or something like that. I think it behooves us to change the language just to make sure we're being all inclusive in the intent. So, okay. 7F, discussion of proposed rule governing sidewalk alley district property. Jan, is that you?
Yeah, this is, we had proposed it, you know, the board adopted it last month to set a public hearing next month. We had a number of comments from board members, so thought some discussion would be helpful. One of the comments was rather than an application, have more of a notice, that folks give notice to the CDD rather than apply, so as not to disincentivize people from doing repairs and replacements. That was one of the.
I'm not sure I understand that. What's the difference?
Is that what I said?
That's what you said, Dave, yeah.
You want me to tell you what I said?
Yes, that's what you said.
She did not side-eye that way, so I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said you did not want to disincentivize people. The question for need for an application, you just want notice that someone is doing notice and deposit prior to initiating work. You don't want to impede anyone's right to repair.
Yeah, that sounds smart to me,
Mhm.
because I wrote it.
Okay.
What changes that reflect what my changes are?
No, this was what was adopted at the last meeting, and then Greg sent some comments as well. And then there was some discussion of looking at the deposit and fee schedule. And so we will amend and make any changes, but the changes conflicted a little, so we needed to discuss it to find out what we want to end up with.
Okay, so on the first one,
On whether we want an application for repairs, or we just want a, you know, notice for property use.
tell me how that means when you say a notice. So if we don't do an application, how are we aware that they're doing it?
They provide a notice. They were incumbent on them to provide a notice, let us know that they're gonna do something, and they may impact our sidewalks.
How's that different than an application?
We don't
An
want,
application, they're asking permission.
yeah,
We're not giving them approval.
They-
They're just notifying us, this is what we're doing.
I understand. Well, and my only condition on that would be, I think then you would need to send some guidelines around that. I mean, wouldn't want them coming in with a,
Yeah, that's
God knows we
that's
had an
amendment.
MRAP back in Artisan Park.
yeah,
years
well,
ago.
make that a,
Driving a
make
sidewalk.
that a form letter. All right, we received your notice.
Here are the restrictions you need to operate within. I agree with that. I just, we need to figure out.
Unless it's on CDD property.
It is, it's on the sidewalks.
Yeah, this is.
Right,
It's on
even,
the side,
even
yeah, this is-
crossing over.
This is primarily heavy equipment
On the
Well,
side.
Yeah, that's all, that's all it relates to.
And in the application, we did, in the application language, we did have language about restrictions. So I think it's simply taking those restrictions of
Yeah, the fact-
page 77 and basically just turning those into notice restrictions as opposed to application restrictions. I agree with that.
Okay, and then do we want to include alleys or just sidewalks? I had a comment that alleys shouldn't be included.
And that was my comment was, my understanding is typically we have not allowed for the closure of alleyways because now you're intimidating traffic.
There should not be closure.
Well, it isn't necessarily closure. I think it's if someone's.
Well,
Yeah, if someone's bringing in heavy equipment onto
But-
the alley or parking something there, then
if you're
it's.
bringing in heavy equipment into an alleyway, you're by definition blocking the alleyway. You're closing it.
Well,
Not necessarily.
anybody building a garage apartment is gonna have drywall delivery.
If you're replacing a roof, you're gonna be blocking it.
So you're
there's-
gonna block it.
I mean,
So now I
it's
go.
reasonable.
Yeah, but now I go back on the notice versus application, because now if a homeowner is going to impair, particularly in a one-way alleyway, his neighbor's ability to go down the alleyway, I think we do need to have an application to be able to say.
I
time.
think there's, I think there's an understanding of neighbors, if somebody's doing something major, there's a difference between allowing like a whole day they're doing stuff and the truck is permanently parked a whole week, right? There's a nuisance factor, right? But if they're like, if you were replacing a roof and they need to have a big truck and they need to stabilize it and move all the piles on there, there's no neighbor that's gonna say, oh, you can't replace your roof. No one's gonna say that.
So do we want to put in the notice then, do we want to put a restriction on how long they can block you out?
No, I think what we do is the notice enables us to reach out to those people that share that alleyway to alert them that there's going to be drywall delivery next week or whatever it is. Now, whether we actually act on that, and notify people, that's one of our failings, in my opinion. But still, the notices,
I don't know that it's, I don't know that it's incumbent on us to provide notice to the neighbors. I think it's incumbent on the residents.
My neighbor tell me. Yeah. I don't wanna overcomplicate it.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
So a notice.
Keep it simple.
Just notice.
Okay,
All right.
we will simplify it.
I'm tired.
Are the fees okay? There were some questions on the deposits.
Well, and I made a question on the fee structure just because we missed between commercial we missed commercial businesses. What did I have on my list here? Category for schools, churches, non-commercial types, for a few things over there. We need to include them in there. Excluding,
Okay, so you can add
yeah,
commercial and
non-commercial,
yeah,
yeah.
schools,
Yeah,
et
and
cetera.
did I say, make sure you, the home business district is put in there somewhere? I don't know where it falls in, but.
That falls on, that's actually falls under single, for me, would be a
Single family home and home business.
Right.
Yeah, and my other suggestion was commercial businesses, I think should be paying what we're looking at for the condominium part of the townhome development. But I think there's gonna be equal impairment.
I think there's this decision about the size. of Commercial business, a small thing, no. But like a major project that we had to hear all that.
By the way,
sidewalk down,
right.
So
If you
Boulevard.
change that from commercial to non-residential, that clears up a lot of confusion.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm not living or dying on the amount for the commercial business, I just think that should be a little bit higher, it seems kind of.
I agree.
And,
Given the amount of impairment that commercial business is gonna do.
and it's just a deposit, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a deposit for
Yeah.
damage.
They're just, I think there's more likelihood, I mean, I would suggest taking it up to the 15 pound. I think that's too high, or 1,000.
Yeah.
2,000, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll get that to you all for advertising.
And then my last comment was, and I don't know if we can
That'll
do
be on
this.
the July hearing.
Well, no, we're not doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was all I had.
Okay, that was it. Just wanted to get everybody's input on that, so it's gonna be advertised properly.
So we'll have the hearing in July at the
Yes.
budget hearing.
Yes, that's when I was at.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so for anything else on that before I'm jumping ahead?
Do we need a motion on anything on that? Or just-
No, just discussion of changes.
Okay. got it.
So I have a couple of things on mine. The audio visual proposals, I have people meeting me here tomorrow at 10:30. This, I will tell you, unless I misunderstood from this board, that was not high on my list to get done. Because we had other things going on, such as the budget and all this other stuff. So this audio visual, yes, it's a mess, but it works. So it wasn't high on my list to get done. Also, it's a very small project, so there's not a lot of people chomping at the bit to come and provide this proposal. But I do have people meeting me here at 10:30 in the morning for two parts of this audio visual, and then we also have some issues or concerns, I'll say, not issues, concerns with our current security cameras that we have in the building and the server that we currently have. Some out of the country concerns. So that's it's two separate issues, but they're gonna look at both holistically and give proposals for that. The other thing is, again, it wasn't high on the priority list either, but they just so happened to come in and were able to do it fairly quickly, was replacing the flooring. And I got two different quotes, two different companies, the hallway into the conference room, and then that side of the building, which are just offices, basically putting in the flooring that's down the hallway and in the kitchen or on the back side of the, just easy to clean, not super expensive.
Taking out all the carpeting.
Yep.
Like whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever that is out there. Again, it's not on the agenda. I wanted to give you the proposals. That's what we got. You'll see the one that is a little bit higher. Both of them are virtually inexpensive, but the one that's a little bit higher, that is them moving the furniture. And when I say moving the furniture, when they're doing this room, they'll move everything out, put it back in. The one that's lower is us staff moving furniture to have them come in and do it. So that's the difference. That's why you see it's not that
That's
close.
from Empire.
Empires includes moving furniture. The other one does not. And they're lower if you look at the cost.
Staff said they'd call out sick that week.
Yeah.
They got the- but when they say staff, they
Yeah,
mean trust.
that's right.
That's really.
That's what we're talking about. So those are those two things. You have the assessment levels. That's what
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
before we jump off,
Sure.
are these ready to action today or?
If you'd like, this is the first time you're seeing them, so if you want time to digest them, could not get any more people. Again, it's a very small job. Those,
You gotta target residential almost, contractors.
we did residential and commercial, and the ones who primarily do residential, we don't pay tax. So most of them are like, what do you mean you don't pay tax? No, we're not doing that. Commercial are typically, they know we don't pay tax because we're a government entity. So they're more apt to do it, but we did call residential, commercial, mom and pop places as well. So if anyone has any additional places, I'm happy to call them. Again, this wasn't a top priority thing. It was just something that was requested to do because, as you can see, the
So-
carpet, this is the original carpet that's been in here since
I
the
know
building
it's
was
not working, it's not
built.
working, because people walk in and out with some dirt and stuff. So question, on the CSI, the 2579, is that just for this room and the hallway?
No, it's for, he gave the apples to apples as well. Hold on.
That's the same as 6845, because I'm looking at the schedule.
Yeah.
Saying it's 980 square feet.
Right. So if you look at the first one,
Yeah,
um,
is that the office area?
no, that's the conference room.
When you say the first one, I'm sorry.
The
First page.
2579 is
Got
the
it.
conference room.
Okay.
3115 is that side of the building, all the offices, cubicles, all of that, and the hall. So the conference room and the hallway are one quote, which is that first one that you see.
Yep.
2579, and then all of the offices basically right inside the hallway door right there. That's 3115.
Okay, so the apples to apples comparison is from the one quote that's got 2579 and 3115, basically the sum of those fees are about $5,600 versus the 6845. Is that the apples to apples?
No, so the 2579
Right.
correlates with the 6845. The only difference is the 2579 does not include them moving furniture. It's strictly ripping up the floor, putting down new flooring.
Okay, so then the 6845 is just here, the 8396 is there, which
Doesn't
correlates,
Yes.
back to the 3115
That is correct.
tracking.
That is correct. So again, you know, Empire's just turnkey. They come in, rip it all up, move the furniture. We don't do anything and they don't disrupt work. CSI, we would be having to move the furniture, which again is not a problem. It's basically this stuff and the desk, and they did say CSI also, I forgot, the walls on the cubicles, which there's not that many. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 little partitions. That they would call another company to come in and move those. CSI would.
Okay.
And he did not provide that cost to me yet because he didn't know, but that's included in the Empire cost.
Yeah, I
So,
would kind of wait for myself.
yeah, it wasn't anything pressing, but just wanted to get it to you so you could kind of digest, even if I was, and I still may get more people because we reached out to more people and they may show up and give quotes and stuff, but just to give you an idea of kind of what we're looking at.
Okay.
And that was it for that. The assessment, the snapshot I already gave you all. That's what it looks like on bonds. I put that in front of everyone. Update on the cameras. The cameras have been installed. They do have SIM cards in them. And they have power. And I believe they're up and running.
It should be.
Okay.
They said they needed to come out and program something just to make sure.
Are they the vendor or are they the sheriff's department?
Both. Both.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, so let's get confirmation. I know, I can feel it's everything dropping.
Yeah, so,
It's not dropping inside.
but they are working, SIM cards, everything's been done. So that's that. Webb Wright has been out to look at the roof, the engineer that we got.
Yep.
He did send over today that he wants to meet on July 16th. I'm looking at
Yeah,
you.
these ain't- I
17?
haven't seen the
Okay.
email, but they're coming.
Did you get a report from
No, no, no. So they came out, he did his initial thing, and he wants to meet with a roofing contract on July 16th. He wants to have 2 lifts
Oh, so he wants a roofing contractor to come out.
with
on
him,
July- Okay,
with him.
okay.
And they're gonna have 2 lifts, one on one end of the building and one on the other end. Something like that. He
I
put in
want
his
to talk
email.
to him. I don't know if I would need one inside the garage. We got 20-foot
Yeah.
ladders.
Either way, that's what he wants. So we're setting that up and he just let us know that today. And then he will provide a full report based on design versus repairs.
What's your best estimate? of that?
He said once he gets the information and does this initial inspection, July 16th or 17th, it should be a week after that.
So we'll miss it because our board meeting's a week earlier this month.
Yes,
It will be in
it will be your August
What do
meeting.
we want to use for?
Well, that was my next question. He doesn't care. Do we want to use Arnco? Or do we want to go with whatever?
Arco's GC, but we want a specific grouper.
Yeah.
He just wants
We
a
want to go
roofing.
with Nash that did our shade structures downtown and not the one.
My only question was because we've been using Arnco to do these repairs, are they gonna want to be a part of it?
Yeah, they had asked if they could.
Yeah, and at
Watch
that
what
time, he
happens.
didn't
But
need,
if
he
if
didn't need a
he's, but if
roofer.
he's depending on, if I'm hearing right, the assistance of a roofer to help get through the process, I don't want Arnco being the one assisting him because I'm trying to check Arnco's work. Is that what we're,
So I would go with Nash, which is who Russ, they've done other work for us out here. They are a roofing company.
and
They build houses and stuff too.
look, and give me an
It's the
idea.
metal roofs that they have done out here.
Yeah, and we gotta get it done, but what's the not to exceed that we're expecting for getting?
I don't know, I don't even know, I haven't talked to Webb. I've got to reach out to him because I don't even know to the extent of what he's wanting the roofer here for. Like what, you know, what's the end game for that roofer?
Well, I wanna make sure
It's
we're,
part of his contract, yeah.
Well,
Right.
they want a roofer out here because they're gonna pull up some panels.
I knew that. Is there anything else? Because he doesn't want to be responsible for,
Yeah, he's not gonna do any work. He's
Yeah.
gonna-
well, we're not
them do it.
expecting him to do work, we're expecting him to do an assessment. I'm confused. as
he's
to
got to
what-
pull up panels to see if repairs that were done and all of that were done correctly. He's going to be looking to see where leaks are, all that
So I'm
stuff.
gonna ask the stupid question, did we not understand in his contract that he was unable or unwilling to do some of the things that which would require him to do the assessment, or did just he not disclose that? It seems odd to me that we signed a contract for a guy to do an assessment, and then he came back afterwards and said, oh, by the way, I need a professional roofer to come out here and help do an assessment, and hey, by the way, you need to pay for that.
I can actually answer
Uh,
this question.
He,
Well,
no, it's not written in his contract. And the only thing he mentioned to us was the liability. Was it liability?
This is the first I've heard of it.
No, in the contract.
Oh.
Yeah, he didn't
It's
mention
written on
anything about needing a roofer, any of that until after the fact.
okay, so I think number one,
Let's
we,
find out more about what it is.
That's why I want to talk to him, but I'm telling you, that's the update as of today.
but I also want, I want to, maybe I'm the only one, I want to give you guidance that if you get that back, and either it makes sense, hey, we didn't understand, it was our fault, we need a roofer, I want to make sure that we're not waiting another month
Mhm.
to go do this, so is there a,
I would ask the board to authorize staff working with the chair, and if it's a realistic ask, let the chair approve it. If it's not a realistic ask, then it needs to come back to the board.
okay, and then we'll just do a
Yeah.
retroactive.
Oh, yeah, we would
Yeah,
ratify it at the
ratify.
next meeting,
Okay,
as long as it's a realistic ask, because
Okay.
he came today or Friday, right? Friday, and met with Carrie and Russ.
Yeah,
Today he emailed and said, I want a roofer and July 16th.
Yeah.
Cause he wants to get on 2 lifts,
Okay.
one inside the building, one outside the building. So that was the first I heard that he wanted a,
It shocked us.
yeah, so let's
Yeah.
lean into him a little bit contractually, that, hey, you knew what you were getting into, why are we now?
I plan on having a conversation with him tomorrow, but we just got that update today, so I wanted to let you know where it was at.
Okay. All right, any other questions? I'm sorry, anything else for you?
The other thing is I just got the share file It's gonna be called Celebration Files. As soon as we finish dropping the rest of the files in there,
This is the SharePoint.
yeah, it's not necessarily SharePoint. So our IT, you'll be getting an email from Jake Golden, who's part of our IT. He's gonna send you kind of like a hyperlink. You'll go to that and he'll have instructions and you'll be able to start seeing all the files. So we're gonna put them kind of really nice and neat for
Those
you.
files are all up here.
No, not necessarily. They're the files that you all wanted to see, which were contracts,
Oh, okay.
minutes, resolutions, those types of things.
Some, yeah, but not all.
Some, and if you see stuff that's not on there, what I'm gonna do is start with all current stuff.
Right.
Because I don't really see going back to 1990 to put stuff on there, but if the board over time, we can always drop more stuff in there.
Yeah.
If you
I think
want
the historical
older
stuff, I think,
stuff.
is important because
It is, but
It's important to know.
Let's start today and work back.
Right, exactly.
that's what I'm talking about. So once we get those in there, you'll see an email. It's from Jake Golden. And he will give you instructions and literally all you do is click and it brings you.
And it's not SharePoint.
You're gonna answer the question.
And you're asking, it is SharePoint. I lied. Yeah,
Right,
it's
well, that's something
SharePoint.
different.
So this is what it looks like, just so you know, when you click on the link, it's gonna take you to,
Yeah, the regular ship.
yep. And then you'll have the files
Just want to make
set
sure
up.
something cloud hosted that had some.
At first, he said
security.
that we wouldn't do SharePoint because then it would get intermixed with ours, but I guess they decided.
Figured
They-
out how to
he
make
did
it
it.
flex faster.
So anyways, his name's Jake Golden, You'll be seeing an email. It'll give you that. Literally, you just click on it and you get access. So that's forthcoming as well. And that is all I have. Everybody did get the budget cover letter. I don't know if anyone's responded back to Brenda, if nobody had any
I
additional
have.
stuff.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
because
What did you?
I think she put
suspense
a-
there?
yeah, I think Brenda put a drop dead date that you need to get any concerns, questions back to her so we can make sure we're on time to get the letter out. So just make sure you're cognizant of that.
And making sure Brenda's trying to be very cost conscious. So we're really, really trying to keep it to one page. So we're not
Yes.
doubling the printing costs. So
Correct.
don't get into the Magna Carta if you're gonna.
Yeah.
start adding comments.
Very, very much so. Outside of that, that's all I currently have.
Any questions for Angel?
I think that covered everything I had on my list.
So you have.
Dave always does.
You do.
Okay, fire away.
All right, are we gonna get a mosquito button for the My Celebration?
It's already done.
What? It wasn't yesterday.
Next
So-
issue.
And I will tell you, so Tom, instead of Tom ratting me out, I'm gonna rat on myself. I misspelled mosquitoes because I was like, doo-doo-doo, and he goes, Angel, you left off an E. And I'm like, okay, and I fixed it, but it's done.
Was spelled correctly, but when you add the S.
The
you
S,
gotta-
and I added the S and forgot the E. So yes, that is done.
We can report mosquitoes. Great.
Correct.
Now going to
Oh.
one of Tom's thing, I might steal your thunder, but,
okay.
we were talking about an engineering structural review of a particular boardwalk. Right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
It has or has not happened.
Nope.
Was that part of the reserve budget item that we were gonna do next fiscal year, or were we gonna do that now? Because I remember
I thought that was announced.
I thought it was too, but we were talking, there was like a $20,000 or $30,000.
So, okay, so,
Yeah,
But-
my recollection on this is that. Russ stated initially that the bridge was fine, there were some pylons that need work, right? So the next phase was to get an assessment of those pylons, they're fine now. But over the long term, they obviously have to be replaced, so that's something that has to get researched and find out. How all that is working, so that's the next step, and I think we need to get that, we need to put that in motion. Because then we have an idea of how much.
I agree. I mean, it's.
So Mark is not a structural engineer.
Right. we can bring it to-
Yeah, so we have to reach out to someone else.
I thought you have somebody in Infomark in another location that handles bridges.
We do. And I haven't been able to get him over here, but we do.
Okay.
And I also have two structural engineers, and if you I know you might have a list too, but
I do.
So you can send them over.
Are these
Gotta go.
things that
I gotta go.
Dave, and I realize we're not gonna hit the threshold, so we don't have to, but are these things that we would expect would come to a level where we're looking for competitive quotes, or is this gonna be a couple $1,000? Let's just get an engineer.
Well,
When we're talking about multiple companies, this is not a massive project. If you say it's gonna be a $2,000 thing.
no, we're
that's fine.
asking for an evaluation. So I mean,
Evaluation.
just to have someone come out and look, and I mean, as long as they're qualified structural engineers, that's what we need. And as far as getting work done, I think that's where you go out for
Yeah.
for bids,
Right,
but
okay.
I mean, I can tell you now,
yeah.
if I reach out to 4 structural engineers, they're not all gonna be chomping at the bit
Right.
to come out here and compete against one another. They're just not, you just pick one and this is what
When
they
you get
do.
into the big guns.
Right,
That's right.
that's where you need to go out to bid.
I was just trying to clarify when we were talking about multiple.
No, we're talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
There
So
you go.
yes, he'll give me his and
You know if you got it.
and I'll get someone and see which one can do it. Cause it's not that big of a project. It's literally looking at and evaluating that one bridge. So
Yep.
whichever one can come out and do it, that's what we'll do. And I wouldn't imagine it would be that extensive, but they'll let me know prior to like, hey, this is what it's gonna cost for us to come out and do and then evaluate it. So we'll know ahead of time.
Are all our vet houses up and functional?
Yeah, they reported last month. They were-
Last month, they were all good.
Look at the site, this is the Boy Scout project.
This
isn't
is,
it?
yes, yeah.
I'm not even sure where they are, but I mean, I'm just wondering if you're sending.
There's pictures in the field report.
So I do want to reach out to him and ask him to come in at our next meeting, and I would like to, let's get a certificate or something and thank him for doing that. Yeah, as a project, because I know he put in time to do that. So if the board's okay with us doing a certificate in a nice frame, and then I'll ask him if he can come in and.
Save us a heck of a lot of money, because I know we had proposals from some residents to go and do it.
What was his name?
Cost was a lot.
Jacob, I can't remember his last name. I've got his email.
I have it too.
Yeah, and
Jacob.
I'll send a note back
Okay.
out and copy you just to see if he can make it to the next meeting.
And that's at the July meeting.
Yes.
You wanna do it at the budget?
I would probably do it at the August meeting.
If he's the Eagle Scout, he's got to learn about civics. Bring him in during a budget
Oh
meeting.
my gosh, you're gonna scare him to death. I'm saying.
Summer vacation.
I will see when he's available to do that. Yeah. Okay.
Have any of you heard from Todd Romer lately? I keep pinging him.
I've not heard of
I've reached out to him twice.
Yeah, me too. Okay,
I don't know if he's still traveling or what, but yeah, we have not had any response.
great. I still couldn't be more fuzzy after our last meeting on community connections and the new homeowner orientation. And I think that's a you and a Lauren thing, but
It's not a me thing.
Well, you were gonna reach to Lauren and see.
I asked, when I was talking to Lauren, she was out, I think. I don't know if she was sick. Was she sick? It was around the time of our last.
There's something, yeah, there's something.
She was out. So I have not reached out to her since. I already know what the new homeowner thing is. Sandra's on that. And
Cassandra's on.
Cassandra's on it?
No, she's on the community connections one.
She's on the community connections one.
The
no,
homeowner one is just Crow. Community connections is Crow and us in the foundation.
I'm pretty sure
find out.
it's
I'll bet you-
new.
I'll bet you that
It's the new homeowners because we provided her the slideshow that she gave to the new homeowner to know what a CDD does. I'm about 90% sure Cassandra's on the new homeowner thing.
90, not 90.
I'm betting you.
The community connections, I don't even know what that is.
That's what Cassandra's doing.
That's the thing.
I don't
Well,
Let's get
think so.
clarification. It's not a big deal.
It's not. I'm just afraid of what they're saying about who we are and what we do.
Well,
Okay, I don't wanna get confused. That's
I
really
am
resonating
concerned,
confusion.
particularly out of tonight's meeting. I'm concerned about the messaging and just having seen that slide deck, and there were some minor things in there that were wrong. That I am not comfortable, and I will say this now for probably the 5th time, a board member going out and doing that. I think that needs to be, if we're gonna participate, that needs to be someone from professional staff to go and do that.
What slides are you talking about?
The community connections or whichever, the ones that came in. a year or two ago.
Those slides were accurate. What they provided were notes
The notes on. the
that were
slide.
in there. The information in the slides were accurate.
Yeah, I know.
But
Yeah.
I think
They were accurate.
I think to Dave's point, it behooves us if someone from professional staff is doing that, that way, A, there's no concerns about a sunshine piece. B, we know it's being represented not by one of us who may have, I want to say an agenda, but we've got opinions on things, we're voting on it. That's not the intent of that meeting. The intent of that meeting is an educational session.
Yeah, information.
Here's what CDD does, not, hey, what does Tom Tuesday want to do on
Well,
CDD?
I can tell you now, I mean, first of all, I don't know what any of these meetings are, and there's a good chance that your staff I'm trying to, Cassandra wrote about this.
They do them quarterly.
Yeah, staff's not gonna be able to attend these meetings. So that's why you guys have liaisons. That was the point of liaisons, I thought, was it not? Right?
Well, That's,
So-
that's a liaison. That's Jack going to Crow and saying, hey, we're working on this project. Hey, Crow, let's
Mhm.
talk about this thing. Or Dave doing it with Dick's Height or whatever else. This is
Yeah, and I
going
thought
on-
that was Cassandra's role at this, was it not? Am I mistaken?
She
Well,
does,
she doesn't
in the
have a-
minutes, Cassandra said that she does the community connections.
So it's not the homeowners thing.
No, that's what Grand Manners does.
That I believe.
I don't-
That is all,
thought you were
that
doing
is
it all.
all Crow.
Yeah.
That's Crow.
Because we don't know when they do
All
those, was
staff.
this discussion.
That's doing a new resident.
So is-
That's what it is.
So
They
is community,
historically-
is it the same thing?
No.
So they are two separate.
Two separate meetings.
That's
Historically, it was always town hall staff for like 20 years.
Speaking on behalf of.
They would go ahead and they would break down all the different entities, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? So
Right.
they would break down all the entities, here's the intro, and then that's it, right? It really high level, not really highly detailed, right? Because otherwise you're gonna be there all afternoon. But that's all that was. I technically, I mean, I can sit through one, but I'm sure I'm not gonna have a problem with it. Because it's just generally saying, all these entities are responsible for these things, and that's
Right.
it. That's all that is. So I'm. Yeah,
If
I
you
can
can
find the next.
you're
one.
wrong. If you can get clarity on that.
You want your.
I really am, because Jan and I both, when we provided that
thought it was
slides,
for
it was
the-
for the new homeowner thing.
Well.
I guess not. Check with Lauren and let's.
Yeah.
Part of it is the description of that meeting, of the one with the foundation. In the ad, it also says this is for residents and new residents. It's almost a duplication of effort, but that's two different things.
Are you talking about the founders or the foundation?
That is the
one
community
Cassandra-
connections.
Okay,
That's-
Cassandra is on see, there's so many names. She's on whatever the foundation is, because I have that email. So that's the same as Community Connections.
They run that and invite CROA and CDD to participate in it.
Oh.
The new homeowner one is run by CROA and is just a CROA focused, here's what CROA does and here's your deeds and.
Okay. Okay.
Anyways.
So yes, I will get clarification on Community Connections, new homeowner, and the foundation.
Oh, they're both. That's the same thing. Community Connections is the foundation of that.
Yeah, there's two of them that I'm aware of.
Okay.
What else you got?
Okay, this plays off an earlier comment from the public, which was a concern about communication and calling when they try to call the number here. I heard this today separately when I was down at.
I've heard it
Newport.
several times,
I heard it again at the podium, and I looked at the budget, and we are 65% over budget on our answering service. So what the hell's going on? Why are we using our answering service all the time? Why can't, when somebody calls here, you get somebody on the phone?
I mean, when this office is open 8 to 5, I can't see a reason that somebody isn't able to answer the phone.
I
know
don't
why.
understand.
Go to-
There's one person that sits at the desk, and that's where the phone rings to. We've done this numerous ways. We've had, what is it called? A
Oh, she's on the phone.
Yeah, if she's on the phone, it rolls to the answering service, but we've also set it up too, where it's I forget what they call it. Is it round robin or
It's a tree.
something?
Right.
Is it the tree?
Where it's
Falls to
all
the next person.
So the last person on the list was me, right? So if,
I'm the first person on it.
yeah, if she's on the phone, it would go to Russ. If Russ is on the phone, then it would go to someone else, and then the last person's me. We figured out over 2 months that wasn't effective. Because it very rarely, I think it would make it to Russ, and then she would actually put someone on hold.
Russ is doing field stuff and you're doing.
Exactly. So what we've also done, we've tried everything, because we've gotten, even when they call here, it's not just going to you, they'll call here and go, I called 5 minutes ago. why aren't you answering? You know, well, if she's on a call with the resident, sometimes she can put them on hold, sometimes they don't want to be put on hold. And it doesn't ring at multiple places. It rings there. The only other option we have is for it to roll over to the answering service or to set it up where a list of us get, I think it was what, every 13 seconds or 2 minutes or something?
So,
It would ring to the next person.
so my question is, because it's, you know, when people say, I call CCDD, I'll talk about it. I
No,
called
it's
the
fine.
CCDD and I couldn't get through to anyone. I have no idea what that means. I really don't, because does it mean nobody picked up right away and you didn't leave a message?
And
does it mean that
Left a message,
you
nobody
stayed
took it.
on the line and just rang and rang and rang?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of variables in front of us.
Yeah, and I don't know what that means.
I
either.
don't, but I, you know, the next step is that I've been reading is not only do people don't get, let's say they don't get through or they don't leave a message, but no one called me back. That's the other half.
That one I can address because I think I might have been on the phone with you
Right.
and someone posted, I've called 13 times and nobody will call me back. What's the name? He gives me the name. I come in the office and I know Russ has seen it. Our machine picks up everything. There's no deleted messages. I can go there and I can look through everyone who's called and I can see, and that person never left a message.
So they're just calling.
They're just calling
Okay.
and they're not leaving a message for it to be returned. Instead, they're posting on Facebook and that doesn't exist to us. We don't check
So
Facebook.
I think,
So-
I think we need to kind of look at this, because I've done this before to try to.
Right.
To address this, to see how we can handle this, because there needs to be, this is another piece. People have to know that they can, number one, either. I think the key is to get the answer they need. I think that's
Right.
really key. And I also want to make sure we go ahead and track. Yeah, okay, you're talking too much. Oh, okay, sorry. Go ahead and track, when somebody says nobody called me back, that's another one. If we can go ahead and get, and making sure we are tracking all those phone calls.
We used to put that in the agenda. You
Well,
remember the phone log?
I'd like to see,
Yeah.
for example, if somebody calls and say they need to talk to Russ, right, because there's some sort of maintenance issue or whatever. We need to have to close the loop that call actually happened, right? And follow up with that, and then we can go ahead and figure that out. Listen, I do know people get agitated and they call 6 or 7 times. I do it sometimes when I'm trying to make a doctor's appointment, because if you don't get in, you can't get into that schedule.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Right? I get that, but it's difficult because we do budget one person answering phone.
Right.
And so that makes it very challenging. That right there is a very, very big challenge.
So we are addressing it, looking at different options on, okay, what can we do? And 90% of the people that work in this office are field guys.
I know.
And we can't have the phones rolling to them. We
That's
tried
fine.
and bless Russ, because he would pick up and be like, hey, and he'd be out digging a hole. You know, the weekend calls, definitely, those come to myself and Russ. We get those via text and
They call me.
they call and an email.
Yeah, I was in Virginia once and it was an 18-minute phone call with resident was going on. So
Yeah.
it's challenging.
It is
Just to go ahead and do
challenging.
that. But-
So
I will say also, and I've seen it many times where they said we've been calling and, you know, you don't return our calls. What's the number you call? They'll either go, well, I don't really know, or they'll give you a number and it's not this
it's not our number.
So for weeks, they've been calling like Proa or somebody. It's
Yeah.
like,
So
what do you
I
do?
understand that. I understand.
So it's just a little bit of education, but we need to see what in here and see what's the best way of what we can do
This is another
to
thing
shift it.
that we can message the community of what the expectations are. what
Yes.
We're asking them to do. You know, please leave a detailed message and you will be called back, right?
Mhm.
And, you know, and then we have to go ahead and catalog that and then we have data.
And I'm gonna go a different direction on it, because I would prefer that, to the extent we can, we're not getting phone calls. That's why we invested in My Celebration, is to be able to take those as, you know, what percentage of the phone calls are things that really are things that could be logged in My Celebration that becomes an automated
We
ticket.
also need to mark that to get more users. We had,
Correct.
at the GoGo meeting we had over 300 users. We have a
Mhm.
population of almost 13,000 people.
Right.
So that's not a lot.
Well, there's still people that are going to cell service.
So they are, and they're saying nobody's responsible for cell service.
Right.
How are you even getting in? Because we don't use
We
that.
we don't use it.
And sometimes, I mean, the bulk of the calls that we get here, at least from what I'm seeing, is someone either wanting new service or starting their utility
Yeah.
service, water, or they're calling, did you get my ticket? I put a ticket into my celebration. Did you get it? And so then Jasenia's looking up the ticket going, okay, well, what's your last name? What's your email address? And she's trying to find the ticket and go, oh, yes, we have it. Well, what's the status on it? Well, you just put it in 5 minutes ago. I have to look
I
at it.
saw a lot of this.
Yeah, so there's a lot of variations where people are like, I can't get through, because we honestly don't get a lot of residential calls at this office. There's not a whole lot because they're either reporting it on my celebration and rest of them are going out and getting it, or the biggest calls that we were getting for a long time, and maybe it's changed, is they don't know who to call, right? Town hall, or I've called this number and no one will answer. I've called this number, no one will answer. Can you help me?
Well, and that's a
You
good
know.
other comment. Is there something, God knows, I hate.
And I'm sure they get calls like that too.
Well,
So
I hate call trees, but do we need to look at something as an introductory thing when you call the office to say, if you're calling about these types of issues, please call Crow. If you're calling about this type of thing, please call Enterprise, which is a different phone number. If you're calling about
Okay.
these types of things here, please stay on the line.
we could, I mean, I don't think it's gonna hurt, but
Which I don't know how much it's gonna help,
Yeah.
but just in the interest of time, if you can do a little homework.
we are,
particularly-
we're
Yeah,
looking
okay.
at some
Yeah.
different options to rectify, because I've gotten the call sometimes too, where I've called 50 times and no one's answering, and usually it's the wrong number. It's a number they pulled off of a website or something and they're not calling the right number.
I
But-
had a text message to Brenda Burgess 4 weeks ago that my insurance policy needs information, and I have never gotten a response.
She wouldn't do anything
But
with
it's not
your
the right
insurance
person. Right,
policy.
but I need a number, that's the person I was told to contact.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
need to go ahead and close the loop on that.
But
right?
to text, how would you text?
I can show you the text, I have. it.
But
Okay,
we don't answer text messages. Yeah,
So we'll
okay.
figure this-
Yeah, we don't.
Did you anything else? Nope. Mr. Brandon, Jack?
Oh, that was it? That was a short list. I
Yeah.
was expecting a long list.
Besides emphasizing to Sergeant Rios, the blotter issue that I'd like to see, we didn't see anything as far as traffic details in this last 2 or 3 months.
As far as reports or as far as?
I haven't seen any reports, no.
Okay.
Also, when we did the evaluation for Inframark, I suggested that we had just gotten the new traffic radar sign, and they have all kinds of stored reports in there that are available to us. They break the thing out very simply, and we don't have to do any of the composing of the data and stuff like that. So I'd like to see some of those at least once every 3 months or so.
Do you want one like once a quarter
Yeah,
on all of them? Okay.
yeah.
What will tell you how many people drive by at their speed?
Well, yes, because we
It's
have
like what we
some
pulled
people
last
that,
time.
besides speeding a lot, they speed even more.
Yeah. It's the same one we saw last time on the blotter information. The first time we received it, Greg actually is the one who requested it
Yeah.
from them. And they don't send it to us on a regular thing. So I will ask them
So that
to
would-
send it to us on a
I
regular.
think we need emphasis more on a regular basis.
So
Okay.
the problem we've had is Captain Calvis is the guy who's been coming in and he's been trying to be a nice guy, but he's running
Yeah.
the entire district. And that was my conversation when the sergeant called me 45 minutes before the meeting and said, hey, Captain Calvis is busy. He's not coming. What can I do for you? And I thought, here we go. So the conversation he and I are gonna have afterwards is they're gonna look to assign a deputy out of community services, which is where Jerry ended up. So whether it's Jerry or somebody else as a permanent assignment here, that will be the person coming, and Captain Calvis may come every now and then if he needs to, but it'll be a deputy level. That person will be the person running the blotter and to make sure that that's getting done in time to make the agenda, so that that's just kind of.
Just want to make sure,
Yep.
Mhm.
we live in the bubble and people don't realize that we have problems
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So I'll get with him and see if we can get it on a regular basis. But the reason we got that one is he specifically asked,
Yeah.
can you give it to me?
Okay.
So I will let them know if we can get that on a regular basis. Radar signs, we'll do it once a quarter on all of them. Anything else? No? Greg, did you have anything? Or did you already do yours?
Whatever it was, I forgot. Russ, what do you got?
Okay.
Real quick, I got this from Jack Lot today from the county. They're still wondering if we wanna remove the crosswalk at Ficus Street in
Got it.
North Village.
I thought from the last meeting, you guys were gonna toss that out.
I'm going to, do you want me to proceed on this? Cause there's gonna be some cost to it.
From the last
He's
meeting,
kinda making it sound like he's gonna do a lot of the concrete work, but then a little bit more in her email, it's like, I don't know about
I
that.
thought you guys said that the county should pay for that.
That's the
Yeah,
county's- that's
that the county should pay for it.
So,
We weren't getting.
real quickly, do you want the county to pay for the 100% of the whole thing or not?
yes,
Yeah,
Okay, then
their issue.
it probably won't, it'll just stay where it's at.
Yeah, it's been good for
You're gonna have
20.
sod irrigation installed, concrete to rip up the old crosswalk.
So we're not doing anything,
There's not
Jack.
that many people walking that except for me.
Oh, so you're the problem.
I mean,
You're the issue.
I need that.
The only way this is gonna stop is if we put signs up.
what am I looking at?
This is Longview in the back alleyway.
Oh, everyone parks.
Yeah,
Oh, God, yeah.
I'm not even saying it will stop, but it'll sure probably help out.
Is that
It's
our
up to
grass
you
back
guys.
there?
It's our.
It's
our
just
property.
bad grass.
But the other issue is you got the Comcast towers are there. They're always getting knocked over.
Okay.
There's nothing we can, we're not traffic enforcement, there's nothing we can do about it.
The fencing that you wanted to get.
Oh, yes, Celebration Avenue, very quick.
Yeah, I was only off by $8,000, $108,000.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Jasper fence, and that's, because that's not chain link, that's the,
Oh,
that's.
that's
Green railing.
That's to
and
match the
solid
railing.
Cement base along that.
But it won't be
ravine.
a cement base, it'll be cold concrete around it.
And have we, I heard the commentary that people have seen people fall off that bridge.
It's pretty.
Have we had any report? of
I've
somebody-
never. had
Never.
Reports of it,
Never.
not saying they haven't.
Right.
Could it happen?
Yes. Right, so,
Maybe if y'all get chance.
Is that a
Go over there,
100,000?
kind of peek over.
The 100,000 is just that side.
It's 300 lineal feet, so it's actually 4 areas.
cause remember, that was also on the other side.
Eight
On the other
on each
side, on both
side,
sides.
Greenbrier.
Greenbrier, okay. But Greenbrier is chain.
That,
Yeah, the other side.
you're aware of it now? No. Should be remediated.
Well, was been brought up several times. 5, 6 years ago, we were talking about putting PVC fence up and the board said no.
And I would be careful in my language here, but if it hasn't been reported, I don't know that we're. We have to remediate it.
So it was reported.
It has been reported.
Yeah, it hasn't been reported that somebody's actually been injured. We heard commentary that, hey, there's this hole by the fence and I've seen people go through, but nobody's come up and actually said, hey, I fell down this thing.
Is it deficient?
Yes, that's kind of what I'm looking at, is it reasonably placed?
You know what? I'll walk out there.
No, I have.
I have.
Anywhere else, you would be failed by a county inspector because it's over 4 feet without a railing or whatever.
Or 3 feet or something like that.
It's, and not only that, over time, that dirt has
Yeah, it probably was at
erosion.
one time.
It wasn't, it wasn't, but now it is.
So the other option is to fix the slope.
That's.
I think this would be probably better in the long run. Slope would probably end up
slope-
washing again.
Yeah, and it would take a lot. I mean,
A
it's
lot
like,
of dirt, a lot of sod.
How about we get a quote for, I mean, you can use GeoWeb and put it there so that it holds the dirt in place, you don't have washouts. You know what I mean? Same thing you use for retaining walls.
I know what geofence is. It's still.
yeah, it's.
I mean, you're talking
it's
someplace
like a-
that's 10 feet down to start with, so to come out 2 foot.
Have you seen it yet?
Yeah.
You have?
Well, you're looking at.
Different areas, it's a little different, but it's, during the day, I don't see
Then God forbid.
anyone, but if you're riding a bike.
Reedy Creek
It's-
gets involved. or
It's
something.
schools that have, it's heavy volume.
Do we look into just green chain link fence?
Maybe you even put it, you don't put it up here, you just put it a little bit
But there's
down, at
a
least.
celebration, several places celebrate the
Can
emergency.
you do the chain link? You're saying basically a foot or two down.
That's
the
what I'm
slope.
saying, not up here where it's visible, but even a little bit down the slope, so maybe there's only a 2 foot roll.
That's main and main, though. The reason it's not chain link there is because it's an aesthetic issue.
Right, but if we're burying it a couple feet in the woods, I think Angel's getting that, but.
That's
Yeah,
not
but then
gonna
you're getting,
Does
you're
that
gonna
help
fall
you?
part
Does that
ways.
help you? So the person gets caught down there, but it's the chain.
Part of the chain link fence.
Yeah, it would be, I mean, it would be a drop regardless, but I'm saying if you did chain link, you could have put it down in just a couple of feet. You know, but I don't know.
Either
If-
raise it up or put a.
So 108,000, that was a quote from a vendor because there's
That
fabrication.
fixes our railings
Mhm.
Yeah.
from time to time.
Well, this goes out to going out to bid, with taking 3 bids. I mean, it's not just the railing, but putting out bid.
Dave, do you know any other fabricators that do that? Cause I don't.
This is
Yeah,
the
it's
thing
not
for-
just a fence company.
I guess I could
No,
ask,
it's more of a land development. All right, I got a guy.
I guess I could ask Jim Parker who did the,
Yeah, 'cause they're-
railing on the.
We're gonna have to
bridge there.
fabricate it and all that.
Yeah, ask Jim first,
That's where it's.
because that might be a specialty type of something they've done. I don't know.
Okay,
That's a great idea.
what else you got? Mr. Russ,
Nothing unless you guys got any questions.
what's the bridge? Lights on the bridge.
We can't find any pull boxes.
Madamie's aware.
Tell me what that means.
That means right at the moment, we can't tell if we have any more problems.
Or do we have?
Madam
Let,
was looking
let-
for-
let me ask the question in a legal way. Because they were supposed to have pull boxes by design, are we then able to legally go back through Jan and say you are engineeringly, that's a word, deficient? And is that sufficient for us to demand that they remediate? Is my question. Do we have enough that
Did
we
they
can
tell
send
you,
it?
did they tell you? You said Miami was aware of what? was aware.
Isn't Tanner aware?
What happened was that they had 2 different contractors. One started and then failed and then they had another.
Is this?
But it's in the plans though to have,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
we don't have to have it.
Okay. So,
You have
it's,
communications with Tanner, and send,
it's,
yes, so send me those. So that I can-
it's
We're not
nice,
gonna fair. This
it's nice
is-
that you reached out to them, but they seem to be responsive when Jan sends emails, so. Jan-
Oh, this is nice.
Okay. Yeah, well,
Hey.
they're not happy with us anyway.
That's okay.
It's okay.
They want
That's
to
3
pay
more
for
pages
everything
to go.
and it
I know,
requires-
it's. I know. Okay, my turn.
Anything else for us?
No.
I got one other thing real quick. Island Village. Got the Esplanade there. Family Homes is responsible for one of the oak trees that died. We had another one that died over the weekend. It's been about a month now. I guess it's from the drought. Brett's actually gonna send some verbiage on what he thinks happened.
These are also warranted.
No,
No.
ours isn't, and it's probably a $10,000 tree, just
Yeah.
one.
Which trees are, these are the gigantic ones, the Flanders?
My gosh.
So we're trying to sort of thinking about maybe pulling them out and putting some like palm trees.
I make a motion that we do not replace that tree because that is just gonna,
It- it-
that is gonna be popping that concrete 10 years from now.
That was a horrible idea to begin with.
Take them out and make them pretty flowers.
They
We'll have people-
I
we'll
looked
have
at that
people
going,
yelling.
who did that? It's a giant oak tree on a planter that high.
It's that ratchet straps on it.
It's not the height even, it's the.
Well, I know that,
It's
you know, and then one of them went over and it had like 100 scraps, holding it up, like, what was that? That's not gonna help.
Well,
It's gone.
Okay, so all kidding aside, are we saying we're removing, are we asking staff to remove both trees, one tree? What are we saying?
Well, whatever's dead needs to go.
Well, they're both dead.
So
Okay.
The one's on the warranty and, Madamy knows about it. So
So
we
can
kind
we-
of thought about maybe working together and doing something real simple.
I think it's gonna look even dumber if we've got flowers in one and a tree in
Oh,
another.
yeah.
No,
you
well,
can't-
they
no,
both
we
have to
got
get
to do both the
Yes.
same. Yeah.
Well, they probably certain purposes too, there's no tree.
Yeah, but they're
Right.
both dead.
Well,
Or
not that.
replace
They
the
always
fence.
were, though. What the hell is always been dead? I get.
That's not the point.
Right, they may put it in for a percentage of shade.
They should have put a planter in.
There's a couple of little small shade structures right there.
And if we need to do like what we've got on the Esplanade downtown and get some umbrellas and tables and stuff, then that's what we need to.
It might be better than.
Those trees 10 years from now, God help us if those trees actually get healthy and grow.
I
We're gonna be
wouldn't,
spending $100,000 in concrete bills.
I wouldn't recommend putting tables and umbrellas. I mean, we already have a problem when we have staff downtown
Yeah.
all the time. And we've had people ripping the umbrellas, taking them down, breaking them, and staff isn't even in Island
Okay,
Village.
so we're not motioning for that now. So
Yeah.
I'd say, if I'm hearing right, consensus from the board, remove the trees. Do something reasonable with a flower, something.
We'll have do a couple of.
Yeah.
Tom will work with,
I'll work with United.
Okay. What else you got? Any questions for us?
No.
Let's go twice. That's all you can.
Okay, we have a new law this year affecting special.
Yay, we love you.
Yeah, so it's going to affect July 1st, and this is for all special districts, including CDDs. We have to publish a report of goals and objectives, performance measurement standards, and the results of the goals.
I've already done it.
So by October of this year, we have performance standards, which we would recommend our district manager put together some goals for. In this case, it'd be infrastructure and whatever the.
Well, we've been
typical
talking
funding.
about this, that's good.
Yeah.
The question, if it goes into effect in July, we have to have it in place by the next fiscal year. like October
We
1st.
have to have them placed by October 1st, and then we have a year to come forward. And most of the districts are adopting a very basic plan the first year to be able to be in compliance this quickly. And then after the first year, then we can sort of bolster it and build it up.
On the back end is like an annual reporting requirement. where we,
Yes.
So
measure
just to
them.
be clear, it's gonna be on your July agenda. I've already put it together. Jan has seen it.
Mhm.
But it's what your management company is supposed to do statutorily. It's not like, say, the board set goals that you want to do. That's not what this is.
Okay. That's.
Okay,
Yep.
this is just statutory requirements like holding your meetings. We have to hold X amount per year. We have to do this. We have to
a
do
website,
this.
We have, yeah. all the
Website
things that-
advertising.
Compliance driven. goals
Yes.
As opposed to strategy.
That is correct. Totally separate. We can do strategy goals and all that, but it would be separate than what we're talking about here.
Okay.
And it'll be in your agenda next.
Thank you for doing the compliance goals.
Yes, and that this is also the law that got rid of the requirement for the referendum. So that
Good.
passed and so it was
For
signed.
the
but-
incorporation.
Yes,
Yes, okay.
and that was really it for new legislation affecting CDDs, so we're lucky.
Any questions for Janice? Oh, yeah. All right, fireworks.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh, it's getting late.
Get some
Well,
coffee.
It's already late.
Give us the update on eminent domain,
I don't have an update this month.
okay?
I'll get that next month.
Did we lock in the renewal with Duke for 6%?
We got comments to them, we had combined comments with ECDD and we sent it to them and they've just responded this week that they want to set up a conference call to go through our comments. So I would guess we should have it hopefully for the July meeting, if not August.
Have what? The final?
The final.
final.
Agreement.
The 6%'s not gonna change. It's just the legal language in the contract that we're going back and forth on.
All right, do we have a towing contract or we're not gonna get one?
No,
We don't have one.
yeah, we haven't put that together yet with the other two public hearings. I put that off just until probably August.
Budget.
Yeah.
Good. All right, I'll fund that one. And then, I asked you about a resolution where we could have a 20 per mile hour speed limit on sidewalks.
Still working with county attorney on that. Because of that, they're technically, you can't have certain vehicles on sidewalks. And so we talked with the county about doing an ordinance to regulate pretty much motorbikes, et cetera. And so the initial reaction was, we're not really sure about that.
So that's, we've been getting that free. Right?
Yeah,
So-
okay, I'll push it. I did not push hard, but so
When
far
you say,
I've done that.
county attorney or the sheriff?
County attorney. Yeah, sheriff's attorney. Yeah,
Sheriff.
all they've said is if you get something passed through the county, they will enforce it.
But can I get clarification, say, to, with motorized vehicles, and I would assume it's electric bikes.
Yes.
scooters, but
Yeah.
Are you talking about ordinances on sidewalk or the sidewalk?
Sidewalk and.
Okay, now we had
Again,
this.
the road, the road, they're probably, it's whether we can adopt something on the sidewalk when there's already state law covering what should.
I want to make sure I'm clear, so I'm supporting it as well. We are not asking them to ban motorized scooters and bikes. Yes, totally. We are asking them to put in the speed limit of them to say whether it's 15 or 20 miles.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we're not banning them on sidewalks.
Dave's request was to put a speed limit in, which is why they're
But they're
uncertain as to whether they can enforce it. or
How
whether-
are you gonna measure the speed limit on the sidewalk?
This was
You
the
can get
question
some
we had
radar
last time.
signs.
Exactly, and that's what keeps coming up.
But there's
So-
Don't care.
Don't
care.
But they're.
But if we can't enforce it, yeah, if no one
That's
can
gonna be the
enforce it,
problem.
then,
Right,
I
I'm
mean,
gonna say-
that's sort of the problem.
I'll say this piece and I'll be quiet, because I'm just like, there already is a law for people who are not licensed. Under 16, they cannot ride motorized vehicles in the road. It's Florida state law, right? And so we've got people under 16. Not knowing that own driver's license, they don't own anything, they don't know the rules of the road, and they're on the road. So I wonder, that's what I'm asking.
And that's where the sheriff
That's-
should be enforcing, and the
But
sheriff
that's
is
for
not.
licensed vehicles, so that's not for.
No, no, if you're actually a user on electric vehicle, right? You have to have a license, 16 and above. Under 16, you cannot be in the road. And you cannot use motorized vehicles on the sidewalk either. So it is what it is. We visited this before, but the law says it's 16 and above licensed on the road, because you're now a moving vehicle.
I will take for action with Angel if we're already having a conversation with the sergeant, and the community services person, to reemphasize. Whatever the state law is, please make sure you're enforcing the state law and keeping an eye out. We don't want just traffic enforcement of cars. We certainly want that.
Right.
But we also want consideration for, and the deputies need to get smart on whatever the rule is, and it's complex, and I hate it for them, and it's their.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the road. All I'm trying to get to, hopefully before school starts, is the teachers and principal will be able to tell parents, this is what, whenever they start getting run over on the sidewalks, this is the policy. Hopefully, the CDD, since we can't get anybody else to put a policy through, for whatever reason.
But we can't enforce it.
I don't, I understand and I don't care.
Yeah, but I don't think
just
we
want
can put a policy in place we can't enforce.
Yeah,
no?
we can't adopt a policy that's unenforceable, which is why I was trying to go through the county.
Well, however we need to do it, and I'm pretty sure there's
Yeah.
policies that are enforceable all the time. There's lots of legal contracts that are enforceable. We do it every time we scroll down.
Florida State passes laws all the time that they can't.
Let somebody take us to court. I just don't care anymore.
Okay.
Don't worry.
But I think it would be easier to enforce just not having motorized vehicles on the sidewalk.
But I don't support that.
Yeah, we don't support that.
We've got kids that are reasonably riding. There are some kids who are reasonably riding at reasonable speeds with an electric scooter. I ride with my kid all the time, who does 7 or 8 miles on the sidewalk, and he knows to ring his bell, and when somebody's coming the other way, he slows down and pulls off to the side, and then he keeps going.
And
I don't want to prohibit that.
I've seen kids that are responsible. Again, it's always the 5 or 10% that's.
Well, yeah, not everybody's gonna follow, but.
Okay, let me see what I can find. As I say, the county has not been forthcoming. So let me see if we can come up with something or figure out who in the state has done something.
Thank you. Anything else for Jan? You sure? We have a long list. All right, our engineer's not here today. Anything from him, other than his monthly report? Angel, did you have?
I
anything?
didn't know he wasn't gonna be here. He might have let Brenda know, but no, I don't have anything.
Okay. AE, if we could rename that, as we mentioned before, whatever.
What?
On future agendas, the community center updates, if we can name that,
Yeah, I'll change that.
there you go.
I'll change it.
Liaison reports, Crow. Nothing.
Yes, definitely. See, I'm working with PROA board members on, like I mentioned before, getting the site and impact together whenever the data is good.
Have you had any meetings with Natalie lately?
No.
Do we need to have meetings with Natalie?
Have not had anything come up. We've got some questions probably that we'd like to know, such as, when new when new phases are gonna come
I was
online.
gonna say, I have lost the beat on where we're at on phase two.
Do you want me to forward you our construction meetings that we have every week here in this office with Anatomy and SDC?
Yeah.
So you're more than welcome. We're having, the next one would be Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Amazing. Yeah, let's do this. Perfect. Thursday, 9 o'clock. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Diet.
I got nothing as well. Discussion items, conversations with Osceola County. The only question I have on that one is, we have two. I will re-engage them because they were supposed to take the list that Russ had put together, of the top 25 roads that staff felt needed repaving, and they were going to make an assessment, and that was 6 months ago. So whether or not they're going to do some out of cycle repaving, and they haven't come back on that. So I will re-engage them on that one. The other one that did come up as a resident request, that I think falls in here as well, was there was a complaint on Nash in particular because people park on both sides of the road. And it's tough to get down there just with a single car. I'm shocked. I mean, driven fire engines for 17 years in my former life. I'm shocked the fire department hasn't gone down there and said, you've got to do something. So the request from the resident was to the county to either do one side, no parking on one side of the street or something to be able to allow for that. And then the county engaged us because of the agreement we have with them that any parking enforcement stuff will come to us for concurrence. So I responded back to him and said, hey, can you, that's all he said. So my response back to the county was, do you have an engineering assessment since you're in charge of the roads, and do you have a fire department assessment, and everything else is a recommendation to us as to whether or not we should even entertain that or not. So I'm waiting to hear back from them as to what the county's opinion is on if there should be anything done.
I think that's the right, because
We're not road engineers.
no, that's up to them.
Yeah, and at the end of the
And
day,
it's gonna be a major impact for those residents. They do.
Well,
I think last time it was gonna be a major impact for a lot of areas.
but at the end of the day, if it's a life safety issue, number one, that's the fire department, that's not us. Number two, if it's a road issue, that's the road department, which isn't us as well. So that's why I tried to push it back on the county and say, you tell us what you're thinking and you make a recommendation. They need to be the one coming back.
Yeah, I agree.
So. Okay.
That was the county?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me take advantage of the fact there's more than two people in the studio audience today to give an update and a request, which is that I've been coordinating with the county transportation office on adding a right turn lane on Celebration Boulevard onto World Drive. All right.
Well, don't clap too quick.
Well, here's the, part two.
No, this is
All
the
right.
county we're talking.
Here, you can clap again because county transportation is in full support of that. After we said as a CDB, we were willing to donate some land in order to facilitate that, because they don't have the right of way unless we give them a little bit. Here's the fun part, is that the county's going through their budget reconciliation right now. I brought this to our commissioner's attention, and she nodded and said, okay, great. But no response to my email. So at this point, it's gonna go to the commissioners for them to look at the budget. And if anybody from the community wants to fully support adding a turn lane,
email
Becky Chowdhury is your point of contact, because it's in her court.
Post
We're gonna get to.
We'll do public comments in just a minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could we put that on the back porch or side porch so we can?
We don't deal with the
We
back
don't
porch.
deal with porches.
We don't, yeah, we don't.
If you want to do that as a resident,
If you give me the information, I promise you I'll do it.
Peggy Chowdhury, her email address is up on the county website. Anybody who would.
I live across the street from you.
There you go.
I mean,
Walk over there. There you go.
We'll find a way to get it.
I promise I will do it.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to email Peggy and the professional staff, that would be the way to go and say, can you put it in the budget for this year? Cool. Any other supervisor comments?
I don't have anything.
Guys? Public comment period. Anybody in the room for public comments? Yes, ma'am. Come on. If you can come up to the mic for us.
And you can stretch your legs while you're at it, because
Yeah, there we go.
sitting here so.
So when you're talking about the right turn lane, which I support too, are we taking away the center median or are we taking away the easement on the right hand side? Which section are you looking
You
at?
expand the
building?
right of way to create a right turn lane, and then we would have to incorporate the sidewalk. We're widening the road in order to get a right turn lane only.
Okay,
So
so
you'd
it
have
would
two
be
lanes, you'd
the
have two,
right-hand side where your easement is, not where the median is in the middle.
not in the median, on the right-hand side, which is expanding the right of way into CDD property. That's why we're
But
involved.
we still have enough land that we would be able to continue the sidewalk. We basically be curving
Because
the
there's a
sidewalk.
lot
down
of
to
kids in
the
high
intersection.
school that walk there.
Yeah,
So
we-
that's why I'm asking, is it the median that you're gonna look at, or is it?
No,
not the median.
No,
Easement.
it's the easement
I
side,
guess,
but
yeah.
we would have to curve the sidewalk then to trace that we're adding another lane, so the sidewalk could continue out to the intersection.
Who's gonna pay for all the irrigation that's gonna have to be redone right there, and you don't even know the map that's right there. Phone cables, sleeves, valve, it's all right there.
Well, we'll work with the,
I'm just
Listen,
letting
the
you know,
county-
it's looking at probably $15,000 worth of work.
it's part of a capital improvement program, so what happens actually is that, and I know this because I had to do it elsewhere, is that if you have a capital improvement program, the utility companies at their dime have to move their stuff.
Cool.
No, the utility companies at their dime, which would be us.
Well, then now you know who pays for it.
There you go. Answer
I
that
guess
question.
Throw it in the budgets.
Next comment, sir.
Good evening, Mark Mulcahy with the Spring Lake. Love your guys' final votes. I think you guys did the right thing. One thing I wanted to make a couple of points on. Just because you may have the authority to impose things, doesn't mean you have to. Let demand determine what you should do. If there's demand to do things for the community that may necessitate a bond, fine. They'll come up with a bond for it. The other thing is looking at what other communities have. And do we want to have what the other communities have? I don't care what the other communities have. They don't have what we have. We have such close access to the theme parks. They could have 20-story driving ranges for golf and 20, 30, 40, 50 pickleball courts. I don't care. I don't need to be like them. They will never be like us. So, and the cost that you spend to have an organization come in and say, you don't have this, here's a bag of shiny things to throw in your community to see if they want it. That's like someone coming into your household and say, hey, let me kind of give you some ideas of what foods you can have or what furniture you can have. You might be happier if you have what your neighbors have. Your family, you can make up your decision what you want in your household. I think the community make a decision what they want in the community instead of having some people come and say, you really should have this. Well, the other thing I like to say, and I could forward this event that happened in one of the communities in southern Florida on the sidewalks with the EVs, the scooters, the bikes. There was a lady that was killed. I forget the name of the community. I sent it to their board member for PROA to see if they can do anything on it. But they're, gutless wonders on certain things, great on others. But it always say if there's a will, there's a way. So, but this committee was able to impact or introduce some sort of legislation to ban it on the sidewalks. Now, if you go to Spring Park and walk along the cement path, that's along the lakes, you would change your comment and mind on supporting EVs on there. These kids are going 30, 40 miles an hour. The EVs are modified. You can't hear them, they don't ring bells. There's going to be a death. I can guarantee it until things are corrected. They're across the lake on their, ripping up the lawn, the dirt, because they treat them like motorcycles. They're going crazy. And it's not the young kids, it's the high schoolers just zipping by, going crazy. They almost hit my wife. I'm out with the dogs. I mean, you gotta pretend you're in a war zone and be really alert to see what's going on. That's not a great community to live in. I bet the other communities you guys pay money for don't say, hey, you guys, you got a great thing. We're gonna convince the other communities that they should have EVs going crazy like you guys are, That's all I need to say. I'll get you that article. Some countries maybe have already seen it, but it is a health and safety issue. And thank you.
It was in Coral Gables.
One, you know that I've been very influential in getting this information out. I go on record and say no one has questioned your integrity, nowhere.
I go on record saying respectfully, that's not correct.
Well, not.
And I understand it may not be some of the people here, but that has absolutely happened.
Well, you're gonna have idiots all over the place. Secondly, is there any way that you guys can teach CROA how to run a meeting? Because they need help. This was very professional, and I appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. There was two things that I wanted to ask was, one, is there any way that we can reduce the speed limit on Celebration Boulevard so that we can use EVs going down to Island Village?
We've requested it of the county.
That's county.
Because what I've been told by the sheriff's department and the county is because it was designed that way, they can't, it would basically be artificially reducing that. It would make it more hazardous because the road's designed that way. People are going to continue to drive the speeds that they're at now, but all you've now done is legally allowed EVs to go onto the road. So you've actually made it more dangerous now because nobody's actually going to slow down. And again, it's not this guy's opinion. It's not within the purview of us to determine because it's a county road. But we've asked the question, and that's what the county's come back and said, no, they're not going to lower that speed.
Okay. And on the other point that you made about EVs on the footpath and your children using them responsibly. Personally, I'm all for some facilities in town, additional facilities for the ages of between 7 and 17, because there's nothing really apart from one basketball court. And so if there was a skate park down here next to the dog park or something like that, yeah, I'm all for those conversations. But I think that if you guys, hopefully the one thing that we've taken away from tonight is interacting with us residents is a real big thing, and just maybe having a notice board, something as simple as a notice board in the office, just giving us all an idea of what's going on would be really beneficial. I know you can't interact via Facebook. I get that, but I'll be honest with you, I've been here 20 years. I didn't even know you've got a website until the other day.
Hardly anybody does.
And
You should try the ACD.
Well,
Nobody really knows.
Well, there you go. And I just wonder if you had a notice board with things that were going on, then it would be really helpful.
Well, and I will say, just as a comment to that, I think part of that is based on the nature of what CCD has done. I mean, traditionally, and I made this comment the other night, this board has, I don't say this negatively, it's just a reality. Traditionally, this board has not done much. When I came on the board, it was maintain the sidewalks, maintain the ponds, and that was really it. So there really wasn't a lot of controversy because we've now come up and, I wouldn't
Maintain is yeah, exactly.
Right.
This is what we're dealing with now.
Correct. We were responsible to maintain sidewalks and ponds. Very good. Now that we are looking at possibly exercising some of the other authorities afforded in law to be able to do amenities or other things, that's where it is incumbent on us to tell the community, hey guys, this is something that CDD can do, and we do need to discuss that with CROA to kind of deconflict who does what, and that's what we have those conversations. And to be more communicative of, hey, we're looking to do things more possibly that will swim into those lanes. So it's going to draw more interest because you're right. I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, and the biggest thing we talked about was, do we get another guy out here to do pressure washing? There were 2 people in the audience and it was a head scratch and a snore fest.
Yeah. And the problem is that you guys have is that you only seem to get bad press, no good press. So,
well, usually we get no press.
Yeah. Well, that's
usually
bad.
where we get no press.
It's kind of, and I think that we all realize that definitely we do, that one of the big alarming things for us has been, and this is why we've started spending more time looking at CROA, is the facilities in town are run down. The trees are out of control, and in my experience with trees, in another 5 years, we're gonna have a big problem if we have Hurricane Charlie come through. There's gonna be a big problem. They're all big issue items. They're all things that cost a lot of money to do, and we all get that. But until tonight, I don't think that the majority of the people that came here really had any idea what you guys do. That's to be honest with you, and I don't know how you figure that out, but you got to figure it out because you start talking about spending $10 million, never mind $40 million, and you can have, you know, this only came out last week, and you were in the corridor. You're going to have to rent somewhere at Disney for the amount of people that are going to come.
We might need a community center for that.
You know, we wanted to rent 8x1, which is what we usually
It
do.
would have been
8x1
lovely,
is the overflow, but
8,000 just to rent the AC unit, you'd have been okay.
I was at a
Guys
Detroit meeting and
advertise.
it was done.
Can you guys have an article in the Celebration magazine?
We do.
We do.
Nobody reads them.
I didn't know, when I read the thing.
I've read 2 articles already.
Sir, go ahead.
That's amazing. I didn't know it's
Stanley Avenue. Couple things. One, thank you guys for your service. I know it's tough. You're volunteering and it's tough. Two, I've actually used Subway service. You might want to advertise. I didn't even know there was a change to something called My Celebration. So
Yeah.
there's some new app out to report stuff instead of Subway service. Word needs to get out somehow.
Yeah, we actually at the GoGo meeting, so we had initial.
My Celebration.
Well, it's well, okay, so we called it the GoGo meeting because we had to meet with the actual event. But it's the My Celebration app is what, and we did, Crow is the one who did a lot of the advertising. In Friday Flash and Monday Matters, they put all this stuff out there for about a month. But we realized too, we looked at the number of users, we don't have a lot of users, right? People are using it. But not a lot, right? So we want to encourage that. So we're gonna develop a plan to get that word out. And because I think that's gonna be the most efficient way, because you issue a ticket, it goes right to whoever it goes, and people said, oh, the lights replacing the day, and this and that. But we just, and then we can also track it for budgetary reasons. We can realize, wow, light bulbs are exploding all over the place. So we can go ahead and adjust our budgets based on that. So, yeah, we definitely are working on work.
So
I'll word is enough.
I'll make you guys a deal for anybody who's on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. It is a one-way broadcast only. There's no commentary on there, but we do put out messaging on there. We did put out messaging on GoGo.
For about a month straight.
Right. The problem is people don't go to our Facebook page. And we can't go up and start, again, because we can't go up and say things on Facebook, but you guys can. So do me a favor, if you've got a Facebook account, go find Celebration CDD's Facebook page.
You can subscribe to the.
Subscribe to it, put it at the top of the list, and don't be afraid to say, hey, look, new post came out.
You can
Help us out.
copy the link that's on it, and
Yep.
just put it in the post.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the last thing, and this is just I'm trying to understand how all the entities work, because the problem I have is this big oak tree.
It's late, so you could.
In front of the house.
Yeah, we don't.
My mailbox is starting to do this. I can't grow grass in front of the house or on the easement. I get things from Crowell, you need to do something. Can that tree be taken out? Who is responsible for all that?
So what's interesting about that is that the covenants rules, number one, were written for when all the trees were little. That's number one. I do know their covenants goes to homeowners and say, hey, you need to put grass down. And we've told them, you need to change the covenants because they can't put grass down, right? Now, if the tree is in danger of falling or whatever, yes, we will go ahead and take the tree down, right? Because-
Russ will come out and do an assessment with staff to see whether or not the tree needs to get removed.
Right, and that's generally it. Mailbox might have to be moved, right, but they'll look at that. But I don't know why they sent letters there.
But if it's a healthy tree.
Well, let me tag on to
and
that.
then the
That
other
tree may be
question-
removed, but it's gonna be replaced.
Right.
Okay, we can't take the tree away.
On the county design plan, it requires trees to be, that's part of the, we don't have control over that.
Possibly not know something. The problem is, I mean, and there's lots of trees, if you go down Stickley Avenue, I mean, the roots are taking over everything, even going under the sidewalk and the other side.
Right.
The yard. You got piping there, there's the water that's in that area. So it's just not a good situation.
And that's, you know, we put in a resolution, and again, we can only do it for the new areas, but for like Island Village to put more root barriers in there. We had staff go out with Russell about a year ago and just said, hey, for one tree as we're replacing a sidewalk panel, what would it take to retroactively, as we're replacing panels and have to cut some of those roots? What would it take to install? And it's like $4,000 or $5,000 just to do the root, just because you're having to saw through those roots and then jam a barrier. I mean, it was a crazy dollar amount. So unfortunately, there's not a good answer other than as trees either tilt too much or get unhealthy, we're just gonna have to take them out and replace them, and it's gonna be how it's gonna go.
Can they be, I know you guys can trim the trees being too low. What about thinning them? To help to get the sun.
So the
hurricane.
yeah, no, so that we will trim them over the public spaces, so 15 feet over the roadway, 8 feet over the sidewalk.
Correct.
Anything going towards over private property going towards the house is the responsibility. And I know the gentleman was in here before and doesn't like it, thinks that it was something we just unilaterally did, but it has been, it is in your deed. It is in everybody's deed that owns a property in town. It is a requirement that is tied to CROA covenants that says we as homeowners are responsible to maintain anything in that easement area. So cutting the grass, maintaining and trimming the tree has always been a homeowner responsibility to do those. The rule change we put in recently was simply codifying that and enforcing that from the CDD side, because we were getting a lot of one-offs and taking this to that. And next thing you know, we're trimming, we're being asked to trim trees that are going over somebody's house. Well, what happens when we do it and all of a sudden it falls and breaks somebody's house?
And there's
just that liability.
Yeah.
So
it's only trimming them, even if over the.
Over public spaces.
Public spaces, you won't thin it out so that.
Right, so we have a tree contract that goes around, it is on a 4-year cycle. So we basically took the town and put it into a quadrant. So once every 4 years, they will come through and do every tree separately. If there's one that's an outlier that has branches down, you can call staff and they will come out and they'll just do it as a one-off to get it up to where it needs to be in the public space.
Now, I think there's a misconception too, that, you know, some homeowners wanna trim the trees, thin them out, and more than welcome to.
Yeah.
I had a homeowner that did it.
They're not allowed to touch the tree at all.
There is a perception in the messaging that we as homeowners can't touch it. No, you're actually responsible to do it. The piece is from a CROA covenants perspective, you can't do it and you make it look like a spiral or something. From an aesthetic perspective. Correct.
Right.
Is there any chance you guys could put something on your Facebook page about that, and then we'll make sure
It's on the website.
it's on the website?
Yes, sir.
If I drop you an email tomorrow, would you go to send me the thing and then I can put it back? Because the amount of people that have moaned about the trees, and that's news to me.
Mr. Hudspeth. Gary, go ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm Gary Hudspeth. I'd like to introduce everyone to a great resource that you get in your mailbox every month, and that's Celebration News Magazine. On page 4, there's a summary of all the alphabet soup and all the entities of Celebration. There's a paragraph that explains exactly what they're responsible and what they do. There's also a phone number, the correct number to call. There's also an email for all the entities that you can email. It's all there on page 4 every month. Did you know Peggy Chabry, which is our county commissioner, has an article in there every month, and her email is in there every month. And CCDD has an article every month, the Celebration News, that tells you exactly what they did last month. They discussed these issues. And CROA writes an article every month that tells you what's coming up. In fact, over the last couple of months, there have been lengthy articles about the Master Plan Advisory Group and what they're doing and what they're proposing. So a lot of what I heard tonight was at your own mailbox every month. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments in the room? I will give Gary credit because Gary is the only guy that shows up to every one of our meetings. That's 11 o'clock.
Yep.
I think he was the only guy at the meeting.
Any other comments in the room?
Nobody's hands are raised.
Brenda, anybody online?
A few people are online, but no one has raised their hand.
Motion to
Move to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
All right, good night.
Thanks, Brenda. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Now, what we want.